Chapter 303. Suing Day, tell me about the Hidden Mist Cemetery. Ning Qing became even more vigilant towards Yin Kongchan. Suing Day also moved away from Yin Kongchan, and moved closer to Ning Qing. Before she spoke, the Hidden Mist Cemetery is one of the most vicious forbidden areas in the Tian continent, because very few of the cultivators who come in here are able to come out. Once you enter here, your spiritual consciousness will be compressed to the point that it is almost non-existent. Not only that, but the fog here also contains a kind of corpse poison. After being poisoned, your whole body would fester and you would die. Thinking of the terrible appearance after being poisoned, Suing Day suddenly shuddered. This thing was terrifying to the extreme, not to mention experiencing it. This is just one of the things. The more important thing is that the Hidden Mist Cemetery is a gathering place for ghost cultivators. The spiritual consciousness of ghost cultivators are not affected in here. Once you are targeted by a high-leveled ghost cultivator, the only thing that awaits you is death. Suing Day's words were interrupted by Yin Kongchan. You should say that the most terrible thing here is not the ghost cultivators. The ghost cultivators have spiritual wisdom, and would not randomly attack people. The most terrible thing is the Yin spirits, although the level of the Yin spirits here is very low, but they do not have any spiritual wisdom, and would attack people at any time and anywhere. Because of this, after entering the Hidden Mist Cemetery, very few people can come out alive. Yin Kongchan's words had just finished, when Ning Qing and Suing Day felt the shuttle tremble. The next moment it was suspended in the air, no longer moving forward. I forgot, in the Hidden Mist Cemetery, one cannot use a flight-type magical weapon to fly continuously. Suing Day's tone seemed to have returned to normal. Ning Qing stood up, stared at Yin Kongchan and spoke, "Give me a reason why you did not let us know, and brought us here. If you cannot satisfy me, then even if I do not want the geocentric 9 Yin essence, I will still give you an unforgettable memory." The reason why Ning Qing dared to come here with Yin Kongchan and Suing Day to search for the geocentric 9 Yin essence was that he did not fear the two of them. Yin Kongchan did not speak, but took out a jade strip and threw it to Ning Qing and spoke, "When you went to the Heavenly Stars auction, you must have seen this jade strip." What Suing Day said is right, although flight-type magical weapons cannot fly here, but it does not affect your twin wings of the heavenly clouds. Ning Qing took the jade strip and realized that this jade strip was the same jade strip that he had seen at the Heavenly Stars auction house. Although the restrictions on the jade strip had already been broken, but with Ning Qing's understanding of restrictions, he was able to identify this restriction with just a glance. It was the same restriction that he had obtained from the geocentric 9 Yin essence jade strip. What was written on the jade strip was very simple. The geocentric 9 Yin essence was in the Hidden Mist Cemetery, the vicious forbidden area, and it was definitely not false. It was just that the exact location was not very clear. At the same time, one must also have the twin wings of the heavenly clouds, or a similar flight-type magical weapon in order to obtain it. No wonder when Suing Day said that she wanted to join this treasure-seeking group, Yin Kongchan immediately agreed when she knew that Suing Day had a seeking spiritual fox. It turned out that she did not know the exact location either. Ning Qing handed the jade strip to Suing Day. As he looked at Yin Kongchan and spoke, "The jade strip is indeed correct, but before we enter the forbidden area, you should at least inform us about it. If I'm not wrong, since there's no direction here and there's no way out, it's impossible for us to get out now, right?" Yin Kongchan shook her head and spoke, "No, I still have 3 transfer talismans with me. When I obtained the jade strip, I had already started preparing for it, so after we get the thing, we can immediately crush the transfer talisman and leave this place." After Suing Day finished reading the jade strip, she did not return the jade strip to Yin Kongchan, but rather gave the jade strip to Ning Qing. Ning Qing stared at Yin Kongchan while holding the jade strip and spoke, "What you mean is that we should just stand here, and wait for the geocentric 9 Yin essence to automatically come to us? In any case, I will not let little Sun search for the geocentric 9 Yin essence in this place." Suing Day spoke with certainty. Yin Kongchan calmly spoke, "Of course we will not stay here, nor will we let the seeking spiritual fox search for it. I have 40 barrier-dispelling pills here, each of them can last for a day, we will each take 10 of them. Your seeking spiritual beast also has 10 of them. I believe that we should be able to find the geocentric 9 Een essence within 10 days. What about the Een spirits that sneak attack us? How do we defend against them? Ning Qing did not hesitate to take the 10 barrier dispelling pills and asked. Een Kongchan took out an barrier dispelling pill and swallowed it. Before she spoke in a calm and unhurried manner, everyone will have to rely on their own luck and ability. If our luck is really bad, and we end up being sneak attacked by the Een spirits, then we can only say that we are unlucky. Now let's all swallow a pill, and then go down. I will have to put away my shuttle. Ning Qing also swallowed an barrier dispelling pill, before he gave a sneer and spoke. I'm afraid that if I die in front of you, then wouldn't you want to take away my twin wings of the heavenly clouds? If you are not careful and end up dying, then even if the twin wings of the heavenly clouds ended up in this place, it would still be a waste. It would be better for me to continue to use it. I will not turn my back on you. Een Kongchan spoke as if it was a matter of course. Ning Qing gave a snort, and did not continue to speak any nonsense, as he immediately jumped off the shuttle. Not knowing whether it was intentional or not, Ning Qing did not ask Een Kongchan for the transfer talisman. He also did not return the jade strip to Een Kongchan. The jade strip containing the records of the geocentric 9 Een essence ended up in Ning Cheng's hands. Although he did not return it to Een Kongchan, but he also did not put the jade strip into his ring in front of the other party. However, when Ning Cheng had just stood in the hidden mist cemetery, his spiritual consciousness had caught a glimpse of a faint aura from the jade strip that was transmitted out. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness was both powerful and incomparably meticulous. Moreover, his spiritual consciousness was tempered in the chaotic star space. As such, when it came to the toughness and penetration of his spiritual consciousness, even Een Kongchan and Su Yingde were far inferior to him. After he felt the strangeness of this jade strip, he even forgot about the strange aura surrounding him in the cemetery. As such, he placed the jade strip in the palm of his hand and carefully observed it. Senior apprentice brother Ning, what's the matter? Su Yingde also came out of the shuttle together with Een Kongchan while holding the spiritual fox. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness carefully searched through the jade strip for a long time, before he suddenly stared at Een Kongchan and asked, "Did you do anything to this jade strip?" "I just sent out a message a moment ago." Een Kongchan's calm face slightly changed. Even her tone was not as calm as it was a moment ago. "No, I am sure that I did not do anything to this jade strip. Moreover, I have repeatedly checked this jade strip, and even asked my floating snow palace's 7th palace master to check it, but I absolutely did not find anything strange about it. If not for a message being transmitted out a moment ago, I would not have been able to detect it. Although I am still not aware of the strangeness of this jade strip, but I am sure that this jade strip has been marked by someone, but the grade of this mark is beyond my ability." Ning Qing firmly spoke. The three of them looked at each other in dismay, and only after a good while did Su Yingde speak up. "I'm afraid that the three of us would end up as a wedding dress for someone else. This person took out this jade strip for auction. I'm afraid that he is waiting for someone to help him find the geocentric 9 Een essence." "I understand." Een Kongchan suddenly spoke up. Seeing Ning Cheng and Su Yingde looking at her, Een Kongchan slowed down her tone and spoke. "When I obtained the geocentric 9 Een essence jade strip, the 7th palace master told me that many years ago, there was also an auction for the whereabouts of the geocentric 9 Een essence. At that time, I did not care about it, but it seems that it was done by the same person, in order for us to come here and help us find the geocentric 9 Een essence." Su Yingde might have spoken the truth, that the geocentric 9 Een essence that we find would end up as a wedding dress for someone else. If we had not discovered this, then we would have ended up as a wedding dress for someone else. Now that we have discovered it, then it would not be a wedding dress for someone else. Ning Cheng shook the jade strip in his hand, as he spoke with a smile. Saying that, Ning Cheng raised his hand and threw the jade strip in his hand away, not knowing where he had thrown it. Ning Cheng threw away the jade strip, and the three of them immediately focused their attention on the hidden mist cemetery, as they immediately felt the strange situation here. The three of them were surrounded by a strange aura, while faint bursts of cries could be heard coming from a distance. If one paid attention to it, they would even be able to hear a sudden sound coming from not far in front of them. However, when they looked at it with their eyes, they would not be able to see anything. My spiritual consciousness can only extend to a distance of less than 10 meters. Su Yingdai's face turned slightly pale, although she had cultivated her mind to the point of being calm, but when her strength was not enough to deal with the situation in front of her, she could not help but feel afraid. My spiritual consciousness can only extend to a distance of about 10 meters. Yin Kongchan's tone was a bit better than Su Yingdai's, but it was not as calm as before. Ning Qing saw the two of them looking at him, and calmly spoke up, "My cultivation is a level lower than yours, and 10 small levels lower." After saying this sentence, Ning Qing did not explain anything. But in his heart, he was secretly shocked at the strength of the spiritual consciousness tempered in the chaotic star space. His spiritual consciousness was definitely not much stronger than Yin Kongchan or Su Yingdai, but because his spiritual consciousness was tempered in the chaotic star space, his spiritual consciousness was able to extend to a distance of 100 meters in this place. Although it was compressed to the extreme, but compared to Yin Kongchan and Su Yingdai, his spiritual consciousness could reach the furthest in this place. Put down your spiritual seeking fox, our time is limited, we need to find the geocentric 9 Yin essence in the shortest possible time. After Yin Kongchan heard Ning Cheng's words, she gave out a sigh and spoke to Su Yingdai. Su Yingdai shook her head and spoke, "No, I don't feel at ease putting down Little Sun in this place. Little Sun is in my hands, and can also tell me the location. But now Little Sun has not told me any useful location, which means that it has not found it yet, we can only look for it ourselves." Su Yingdai finished speaking and took the lead. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness had already caught sight of a faintly discernible shadow rushing towards Su Yingdai, who was walking at the forefront. That shadow was extremely fast, and in just a few breaths of time, it had already rushed to within 10 meters of Su Yingdai. Ning Qing did not make his move, he wanted to see if Su Yingdai could discover it. Sure enough, when that shadow reached within 10 meters of Su Yingdai's complexion slightly changed, as she raised her hand and shot out a sword light. Woo! A mournful cry spread out, from the range of Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness, the shadow had already disappeared without a trace, it should have been destroyed by Su Yingdai's sword chi. This kind of mournful cry was particularly clear in this cemetery, and even formed a terrifying sound field around the several people. The three people were shocked by this mournful cry, and stopped for a while. Chapter 304. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness was much more powerful compared to Yin Kongchan and Su Yingdai, as such he was able to see even more Yin spirits quickly rushing towards them because of the shrill cries. "Don't be in a daze, just follow behind me, I'll lead the way." Once the spiritual fox discovers the geocentric 9 netherworld essence, then Su Yingdai will lead the way. Ning Qing finished speaking and immediately rushed towards a direction with fewer Yin spirits, as he quickly rushed towards it. Su Yingdai and Yin Kongchan, on seeing this, quickly followed behind Ning Qing, and soon disappeared from this place. An hour later, Ning Qing found a piece of experience. That is, as long as they kept walking, even if they were discovered by some Yin spirits, those Yin spirits would only chase after them for a short distance before they would return. Once they stopped, the Yin spirits would immediately come forward. In case they ended up entangled by the Yin spirits, when killing the Yin spirits, they would have to use a true essence wall to block the sound of the Yin spirits, otherwise it would attract even more Yin spirits. Ning Qing walked with the two people for half a day, but did not encounter any major problems. Yin Kongchan and Su Yingdai were clear in their hearts, even if Ning Qing did not take the initiative to say it, Ning Qing definitely had a way. "You seem to be able to discover Yin spirits in advance." After the three people searched for more than an hour, Yin Kongchan finally could not help but speak up. Ning Qing did not answer her question and spoke, "I have been walking for more than half a day, although I found that this place is somewhat strange, but it is only because of the powerful poison barrier, it is not to the point of not being able to get out, right? That is because we have only been here for the first day, and have not yet encountered the Yin Spirit Groove or the Corpse Barrier Valley." Having said that, even if you did not encounter these two places, once we ran out of barrier-dispelling pills, it would still be a dead end for us. Yin Kongchan casually replied, as if she had really forgotten the question she had asked Ning Qing a moment ago. Yin Kongchan had just finished speaking, when the space around the three people suddenly turned cold. A whimpering sound mixed with numerous muffled explosions resounded around the three people. Not good, we have reached a Yin spirit groove, quickly escape. Yin Kongchan's words had not even finished, when Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness had already detected countless Yin spirits appearing. What shocked Ning Cheng was that even though his spiritual consciousness had been paying attention to the surroundings, he did not find that there were so many Yin spirits in this place. Some of the Yin spirits here were even more powerful than Yin Kongchan and Su Yingde. At this time, Yin Kongchan and Su Yingde also saw so many Yin spirits swarming towards them, causing the faces of the two of them to suddenly turn pale. They also knew that these Yin spirits were not something that they could deal with. Yin Kongchan brought out a round shield while simultaneously throwing out two talismans towards Su Yingde and Ning Cheng and spoke, "Let's first crush the talismans to get out, and then prepare to re-enter this place." At the same time she threw out the small teleportation talisman. She had already crushed the talisman in her hand. But in the next moment, she was dumbfounded. After she crushed the talisman, she still didn't move. In other words, her talisman was useless. Yin Kongchan threw out the talisman, and crushed the talisman in just a moment. At this moment Su Yingde also crushed her talisman. When she saw that Yin Kongchan had not been teleported away, she immediately knew that there was a problem with this minor teleportation talisman. At least there was a problem here. Ning Qing simply put away the talisman, and immediately brought out the cosmic true devil axe. Su Yingde and Yin Kongchan quickly reacted, and also brought out their own magical weapons, as they began to attack the swarming Yin spirits. The bodies of these Yin spirits were almost impossible to detect without using one's spiritual consciousness, but the two of them were afraid of being caught by these Yin spirits. As such they crazily stimulated the magical weapons in their hands. Soon the three of them formed a magical weapon true essence wall around them, killing countless Yin spirits, causing all kinds of sharp screams to spread out. Because of these mournful screams, more and more Yin spirits started to gather in this place. Some of the more powerful Yin spirits could not only send out Yin claws, but could even send out Yin blades. There were also some Yin spirits that unexpectedly used sound domain attacks. Ning Qing possessed the cosmic true devil axe, as well as the axe intent that could kill a group. As such he blasted out with his axe line, causing those Yin spirits to die as soon as they bumped into them. Moreover, he also had the twin wings of the heavenly clouds. As such he was not afraid of being trapped. It was just that there were too many Yin spirits around, and they were too dense. As such Ning Qing did not dare to escape with Su Yingde and Yin Kongchan. Once he could not rush out with the two of them, then Su Yingde and Yin Kongchan's deaths would be a trivial matter, but he himself would also end up trapped. To waste thousands of talismans, just to blow up these Yin spirits, he was somewhat reluctant. In this place, talismans were obviously very important. Moreover, if a large number of talismans were to be blasted out together, then it would definitely be a very powerful method. If he had known that he would come to this place, then he would not have wasted so many talismans on the battle ring. If Ning Cheng had the means to attack in a large area, then it would have been much better. However, Yin Kongchan and Su Yingde were a lot more miserable, as their cultivation was far stronger than Ning Cheng's. However, their spiritual consciousness could not break through the 100 meters of the fog like Ning Cheng could. As such, the two of them, in order to avoid being attacked by the Yin spirits, had to spend more than 10 times the amount of effort compared to Ning Cheng. Yin Kongchan was surrounded by a round shield, with white gloves, and a jade ruler as her magical weapon. Su Yingde also had a defensive bell on top of her head, while her offensive magical weapon was a cyan-colored sword. Because the two of them did not know which Yin spirit would attack them next, as such they did not have to defend with all their strength. Coupled with the fact that the two of them had group attack methods that Ning Cheng had comprehended from the Angry Axe Valley's axe line killing move, as a result, their consumption was much higher than Ning Cheng's, causing their situation to be worse than Ning Cheng's. At this time, the two of them already had disheveled hair, and even looked battered and exhausted. These Yin spirits seemed to know that Ning Cheng was much more difficult to deal with compared to Yin Kongchan and Su Yingde. As such, they bullied the weak and feared the strong, which made things even easier for Ning Cheng. Su Yingde and Yin Kongchan were fully focused on resisting the attacks of the high-level Yin spirits, and were not in the mood to care about Ning Cheng's situation. Ning Cheng originally wanted to use his axe line and the three of them to join forces to repel these Yin spirits. But now he saw that along with the shrill screams, more and more Yin spirits were gathering. If he did not take the risk to escape, then when even more high-level Yin spirits arrived, then even if he took the risk it would be too late. Thinking until here, Ning Cheng directly took out thousands of talismans and threw them out. When these talismans were all thrown out, countless terrifying explosions instantly swept through the surrounding area. For a time, the flames were monstrous, accompanied by the sounds of thunder and lightning. With so many exploding talismans, some of the low-leveled Yin spirits in the surroundings were directly incinerated by Ning Cheng's talismans. Some of the high-level Yin spirits also retreated in fear. Ning Cheng took advantage of this gap to grab Yin Kongchan and Su Yingde, and directly used the twin wings of the heavenly clouds to teleport away. This time Ning Cheng did not casually throw Yin Kongchan and Su Yingde down, but rather placed the two of them on the ground, and then asked, "What is this Yin spirit groove?" Yin Kongchan casually tidied up her clothes and hair, before she spoke with a sigh, "Thank you for saving me once again." Yin spirit grooves are places where Yin Qi gathers. It is somewhat similar to the spiritual veins in the eyes of us cultivators. Yin spirit grooves are also places where many Yin spirits are lurking. These kinds of hidden Yin spirits, even if you use your spiritual consciousness, it would be very difficult to find them. But once these lurking Yin spirits are alarmed, then they would swarm out in the shortest possible time. Su Yingde did not speak, but just silently tidied up her clothes, and then put away the long sword that she had been carrying on her back into her ring, and once again held the spiritual-seeking fox in her hands. It was probably because she found that among the three of them, her role was the least. Little Sun found something. Su Yingde suddenly spoke out in a pleasantly surprised voice. Saying that, she once again turned her gaze to Ning Cheng and spoke, "Let's go from here." It seems that she understood that she was not as good as Ning Cheng leading the way, as such she simply told Ning Cheng the way. Ning Cheng, under the guidance of Su Yingde, along with the Yin Kongchan duo, in just the time it took for an incense stick to burn, they arrived at the periphery of an incomparably dark black lake. Rather than saying that it was a black lake, it would be better to say that it was an underground ditch. The water in this lake was pitch black, and there were some bones floating on the surface of the black water, which would make people feel uncomfortable in their hearts. Around this black lake, there were also some bones, but these bones quickly turned into flying ash under the feet of the three people. In the middle of this black lake, there was a raised hill, and at the top of the hill was a flower as white as snow. In the middle of this black lake, there was a flower as white as snow, which was simply too strange. This is the underworld soul flower. Yin Kongchan and Su Yingde were both knowledgeable people. Seeing this flower, they could not help but exclaim out in surprise. The value of this flower was definitely not below the geocentric 9 Yin essence, it could even be above the geocentric 9 Yin essence. Ning Cheng certainly knew about the underworld soul flower. He had seen the introduction of the underworld soul flower, and had always thought that the conditions for the growth of this flower were simply too harsh. But he had never thought that he would actually see an underworld soul flower today. According to the legends, the purest thing in the world was the soul, while the dirtiest thing in the world was also the soul. The underworld soul flower needed the purest spiritual aura to be watered, and to obtain the purest spiritual aura, one would need to wash away the filth in the spiritual aura. The reason why the water of this black lake was so dark, it should be because of the long-term washing of the dirty spiritual aura. The underworld soul flower was a top-quality spiritual grass. It was watered by the spiritual qi of the human world and the pure netherworld soul qi. After a cultivator died, as long as there was a trace of their soul essence, they could use the underworld soul flower to protect it. It could even nourish and strengthen their soul essence. Compared to the soul-nourishing wood, the grade of the underworld soul flower was many times higher. The two of you step back. Ning Qing saw the underworld soul flower for the first time, and immediately decided to take this flower away. You want to collect the underworld soul flower? Su Yingde and Yin Kongchan both looked at Ning Qing in surprise, although they were not qualified to collect the underworld soul flower, but they knew that if the underworld soul flower was so easy to collect, then there would not be so many bones in this black lake. Ning Qing, this is the Hidden Mist Cemetery's soul abyss black lake. There are countless Yin spirits in it. Once you cross this black lake, you will be able to collect the underworld soul flower. Once you cross this black lake, these Yin spirits will immediately wake up, and even rush towards you. Compared to the Yin spirit groove, it is several times more terrifying. The Hidden Mist Cemetery has ghost cultivators. You can see that this flower is still here today. It is enough to show how terrifying it is. Yin Kongchan was afraid that Ning Qing was not clear about it, and once again explained it to him. Chapter 305. Ning Qing just had to look at the countless bones in the Black Lake to realize how difficult it was to collect the underworld soul flower. However, no matter how difficult it was, he had to get his hands on such a good thing. If he did not have the twin wings of the heavenly clouds, then it would have been fine, but now that he had the twin wings of the heavenly clouds, if he did not try it out, then who knows if he would regret it in the future. Thinking of this, Ning Qing did not explain anything to Yin Kongchan, as he stood around the soul abyss Black Lake to observe the terrain. Yin Kongchan and Su Yingde had been together with Ning Qing for some time now, as such they also had some understanding of Ning Qing's disposition. Once Ning Qing decided on something, with their relationship with Ning Qing, they would not be able to persuade him at all. Besides, Ning Qing also had the twin wings of the heavenly clouds, as such he had the qualifications to collect the underworld soul flower. If he did not give it a try, then he would not give up. Sure enough, Ning Qing only observed for a few breaths of time before he soared up and directly rushed towards the center of the Black Lake. Yin Kongchan and Su Yingde, who were watching from the lakeside, nervously stared at Ning Qing. Once Ning Qing fell into the abyssal soul lake, then even if they managed to find the geocentric 9 netherworld essence, they would not be able to obtain it. Ning Qing had just rushed to the top of the Black Lake, when he immediately felt an extremely terrifying suction force. This suction force was not even half a point worse than the one he had felt in the Blood River Mountains. At that time, he had not been able to resist the suction force of the whirlpool above the Blood River Mountain, and had been sucked into the bottom of the Blood River. Although his cultivation had improved a lot, but in just a short period of time, Ning Qing still fell to a distance of less than half a foot away from the dark lake. Although he did not know much about this Black Lake, but Ning Qing knew that once he fell into the Black Lake, then he would only be courting death. At this moment, Ning Qing was greatly shocked in his heart, while at the same time, he also tried his best to activate the twin wings of the heavenly clouds. Using the twin wings of the heavenly clouds at a frequency that was several times faster than usual, Ning Qing was finally able to break away from the surface of the lake. Yin Kongchan and Su Yingde, who were watching from a distance, gave out a slight sigh of relief. Just a moment ago, Ning Qing had almost fallen into the Black Lake. Boom, boom, boom. Ning Qing had not rushed out far when bursts of roaring sounds erupted from the Black Lake. Countless drops of black water suddenly burst apart and rushed towards Ning Qing. At this time, Ning Qing was still tens of feet away from the small island in the middle of the lake. In the boundless Black Lake water, countless Yin spirits swarmed up. It was even more densely packed than the Yin spirits in the Yin spirit trough that the three of them had encountered not long ago. Ning Qing once again grabbed a handful of talismans and scattered them out. If it was on flat ground, then facing so many Yin spirits, he would have several ways to deal with them. But in this place, he did not even dare to bring out the cosmic true devil axe. The suction force of this Black Lake was simply too terrifying. Once he brought out his absolute beginning true devil axe, then perhaps the next moment he would have already fallen into the Black Lake. Although his true essence and spiritual consciousness were powerful, they were still not enough in this place. The sound of the talismans exploding filled the entire surface of the Black Lake in an instant. Countless ghosts were blown into nothingness by the talismans, but even more ghosts rushed up from the Black Lake. These Yin spirits even formed a black mist, which gradually wrapped around Ning Cheng from all directions. Not to mention that Ning Cheng was about to be dragged into the Black Lake once again. Even if Ning Cheng did not end up being dragged into the Black Lake, once he got caught in the Black Soul Mist, he would only end up in a situation where he would die. Ning Cheng sighed, as he crazily stimulated the twin wings of the heavenly clouds, while at the same time constantly sprinkling out talismans, while simultaneously taking out the talismans given to him by the skeleton at the bottom of the blood river from his ring. He knew that he had made a mistake, that is, he should not have waited for the Yin spirits to appear before throwing out the talismans. He should have continuously sprinkled out the talismans before the Yin spirits came out, so that when the Yin spirits came out, the talismans would be able to block the Yin spirits, while he would be able to move forward without any hindrance. Su Yingde, who had been staring at Ning Cheng, suddenly took out a pill and swallowed it down. Before Yin Kongchan could even react, she had already rushed to the edge of the Black Lake, as a white ribbon shot out from her hands like a white ribbon. This white ribbon, in just a twinkling of an eye, transformed into a long white ribbon bridge. This white ribbon bridge appeared out of thin air above the Black Lake, and in just a breath, it had already extended to Ning Cheng's feet. Although the Black Lake had such a powerful suction force, this white ribbon bridge unexpectedly did not show even half a sign of falling. At this critical moment, Ning Cheng's feet touched the ground, as he immediately saw the white ribbon beneath his feet. Ning Cheng did not even have the time to be shocked by Su Yingde's powerful true essence and spiritual consciousness. With the help of this force, he completely swept out with his true devil axe. An axe line and an axe-killing whirlpool spread out around him, causing the slowly gathering Yin spirit black fog to instantly explode. The next moment Ning Cheng appeared on the island in the middle of the lake. The underworld soul flower gave off a refreshing fragrance. Ning Cheng had just smelled it, and immediately felt relaxed and happy. Ning Cheng knew that at this time the Yin spirits were in chaos, as such he had to hurry up. He did not continue to observe, as he directly dug up the underworld soul flower on the island and put it into his ring, as he once again stimulated the twin heavenly cloud wings to rush towards the shore. At this time, Su Yingde's white ribbon had already disappeared, but Ning Cheng had already experienced it before. As such he did not wait for the Yin spirits to come up, as he threw out the talismans one after another. Once he was surrounded by these Yin spirits, coupled with the suction force of the Black Lake, even if he used the talismans, it would be very difficult for him to break through. Just a moment ago, if not for Su Yingde's white ribbon, he would have already crushed the talismans and escaped. This time Ning Cheng threw out the talismans in advance, as such those Yin spirits did not even have the time to entangle Ning Cheng, as Ning Cheng had already landed on the shore with the explosion of the talismans. Su Yingde, this time many thanks to you. Ning Cheng had just landed, and was about to thank Su Yingde, but his words were suddenly stuck in his throat. He saw that Su Yingde, who not long ago still had a head full of black hair, at this time her long hair had already turned snow white, although her beautiful appearance had not changed, but the vitality had fallen to the lowest point, and did not have that kind of rosy and lustrous luster from before. Even her originally clear water-like eyes now had a trace of a gloomy and lifeless aura. What's going on? Ning Cheng asked in shock. Yin Kongchan also came up, as she looked at Su Yingde, and only spoke to Ning Cheng after a good while. In order to stimulate the white ribbon, she swallowed the burning life pill. Originally swallowing the burning life pill would stimulate the potential of the entire body, causing one's strength to soar in a very short period of time, but at the same time one would only be left with 10 years of lifespan. But Su Yingde, in order to preserve her appearance, swallowed the burning life pill to burn her lifespan, causing her to only have 3 years of lifespan left. When Ning Cheng heard Yin Kongchan's words, a deep gratitude towards Su Yingde welled up in his heart, but in this gratitude, there was also a kind of chill that came from the bottom of his heart. He and Su Yingde simply did not have any feelings for each other, not even friendship. For Su Yingde to do such a thing, it meant that she was determined to fall in love with him. If Ning Cheng was a bit more ruthless, then he could completely ignore all of this, but Ning Cheng could not do such a thing. He knew that Su Yingde had used the burning life pill to save him, in order to carve a mark in his heart, but he just could not erase this mark. Why? Ningqing felt for the first time that he could not understand why the other party wanted to do such a thing. This idea was simply too crazy. Su Yingde showed a slight smile. Her smile was just like a pear blossom swaying in the cold wind. It was so beautiful that Ningqing could not shift his gaze away. You saved me once, so I will also save you once. Don't think too much about it. This has nothing to do with love. Even if I cannot advance to the soul sculpting realm after 3 years, and even fall here, I will not regret it. Su Yingde spoke in a gentle tone, as if she was speaking about a very ordinary matter. However, Su Yingde's eyes were not filled with the emotion of saving her once and repaying her once. Ningqing could not see it, but Yin Kongchan could. Her heart trembled. She knew that Su Yingde had already taken the first step in falling in love. She and Ningqing had been together for some time, as such she had some understanding of what kind of person Ningqing was. Ningqing was definitely different from ordinary cultivators. Although Ningqing's mouth was very fierce, and the way he handled things was also very unruly. However, Ningqing's heart compared to those cultivators who pursued cultivation by hook or by crook, was simply as clean as a piece of white paper. If she could see it, then Su Yingde absolutely could see it, so she chose Ningqing. Su Yingde might have truly liked Ningqing, but she was more clear than anyone else about the cultivation methods of the Severing Emotions Tao sect. When a woman fell in love with a man, she would treat him with sincerity, without any pretense. She could even kill him if he wanted her. Only in this way, could she really make the other party fall in love with her, and make her fall in love with the other party. However, once she severed her emotions, it would be absolutely ruthless. Even if the two sides had gone through many life and death situations together, even if the two sides had a lot of emotional sustenance, once she severed her emotions, all of it would become ethereal and illusory. Yin Kongchan couldn't help but shiver. She lowered her head, and suddenly regretted letting Su Yingde participate in the search for the geocentric 9 Yin essence. The 3 people suddenly turned silent. Ningqing did not know what to think, but after a while he asked, after you swallowed the burning life pill, is there any other way to recover? Su Yingde deeply looked at Ningqing, but did not answer Ningqing's words, as she turned around and slowly walked away. Yin Kongchan watched Su Yingde leave, and spoke in a soft voice. There are 2 ways for her to recover. The first is to find a rank 9 spiritual fruit frost sprout, and the second is to let her advance to the soul sculpting realm within 3 years. Su Yingde already has the cultivation of the great circle of the soul essence realm, as such advancing to the soul sculpting realm within 3 years is not something impossible. The meaning of Yin Kongchan's words was obviously that even if they were to look for the frost sprout, they would not be able to find such a thing. The only way was for Su Yingde to advance to the soul sculpting realm within 3 years. Frost sprout. Ningqing repeated the words. Yin Kongchan nodded and spoke. Yes, this spiritual fruit is called frost sprout. Its grade is not much lower than the underworld soul flower that you just obtained. According to the legends, it can even germinate in the middle of a great frost. Su Yingde is now equivalent to being hit by a great frost, as such it is possible to use the frost sprout to restore her. It's just that the frost sprout is extremely rare. It is simply a treasure that can only be found by luck. Thank you, I understand. Ningqing finished, as he took a few steps forward, and arrived in front of Su Yingde and spoke, you follow behind me. If little Sun can feel any spiritual chi fluctuations, then you can tell me. Su Yingde obediently stood behind Ningqing. Yin Kongchan, who followed behind, shook her head slightly, as she walked at the very back. The 3 people originally came here to look for the geocentric 9 Yin essence, but now that the 3 of them had their own thoughts, as such as they walked, they did not have any topics to talk about. Chapter 306. Ningqing, if you really have a mirage tree, then using the materials from the mirage tree to refine a wooden box would be the best way to preserve the underworld soul flower. However, the value of the mirage tree is much more precious than the underworld soul flower. Yin Kongchan interrupted the silence between the 3 of them. What is the value of the mirage tree? Ning Cheng had a 9-colored mirage tree, but he did not know what the role of the mirage tree was. I heard that it has something to do with Dao charm. Only when one's cultivation reaches a certain level, would one be able to understand it. I am not very clear about it. Moreover, I heard that using the mirage tree for crafting artifacts, one can even craft magical weapons that surpass best quality true artifacts. Of course, no one would use this kind of thing for crafting artifacts. Yin Kongchan's words were very vague. It could be seen that in addition to knowing the value of the mirage tree, she did not know much about the specific value of the mirage tree. Su Yingde suddenly interjected, one of the functions of the mirage tree is to restore one's magic skills and Dao heart. Ning Cheng stopped and spoke, in that case, let's wait for a while, let me preserve the underworld soul flower. He understood the meaning of Su Yingde's words. Su Yingde wanted a branch of the mirage tree, it was definitely for her grandmother. However, Ning Cheng did not immediately take out such a thing, he wanted to thank Su Yingde for her efforts. However, gratitude was not love, he would help Su Yingde restore her original appearance, and then when they parted ways, he would leave her a branch. In the Hidden Mist Cemetery, although Ning Cheng's cultivation was the lowest, but his survival ability was undoubtedly the most powerful. When Ning Cheng requested for them to stop, Su Yingde and Yin Kongchan did not have any objections. Yin Kongchan even took the initiative to bring out a room, and arranged an array formation outside. Ning Cheng had a room to himself, while Yin Kongchan and Su Yingde shared a room. Even if their time was limited, and Ning Cheng wanted to waste some time to preserve the underworld soul flower, the two of them could not refute it. Ning Cheng first used the true Brahma sword to cut off a branch from the mirage tree. He could not use the mirage tree to refine a wooden box, but instead used the branch to make a rough wooden box. He then put the underworld soul flower into the wooden box, and then put it into a refined jade box, before engraving some restrictions on it. In order to preserve the underworld soul flower, Cheng wasted a day in this place. Although in the Hidden Mist Cemetery, the three people's time was extremely precious, as such Yin Kongchan and Su Yingde did not say anything. I suddenly thought of a problem. Your teleportation talisman is useless now. Even if we manage to obtain the geocentric 9 Yin essence, then how do we get out of this place? After Ning Cheng came out of the log cabin, the first thing he asked Yin Kongchan was how to get out of this place. Yin Kongchan casually spoke up, originally I had already prepared a way to get out of this place, but now even I am unable to get out. So after finding the geocentric 9 Yin essence, the three of us would have to depend on our own opportunities. If you're willing, then we can continue to team up. If not, then we'll go our separate ways. Ning Cheng did not refute it, now that he was already inside, regardless of whether he was dissatisfied with Yin Kongchan or not, there was no other way. The jade strip that Ning Cheng had thrown away only introduced the location of the geocentric 9 Yin essence in the Hidden Mist Cemetery, but it did not contain any detailed information about the location of the geocentric 9 Yin essence. As a result, even with the help of the seeking spiritual fox, by the 6th day, there was still not even the slightest trace of the geocentric 9 Yin essence. On the 7th day, Ning Cheng suddenly changed his direction. Moreover, as they walked, the number of Yin souls they encountered increased, and the number of times the three of them attacked also increased. This was something they had rarely encountered in the past few days. Although Yin Kongchan did not want to speak, but she could not help but ask, why did you suddenly change your direction? Previously when you were leading the way, you did not choose a path with fewer Yin souls. Why did you suddenly change it now? I don't think we can continue to look for it like this. I have never seen the geocentric 9 Yin essence before, but from the name, I can tell that this thing should have come out from the ground. I had always looked for a place with fewer Yin souls before, but this method is not right. If I choose a place with a lower terrain, then perhaps I might be able to encounter it by chance. Ning Cheng's answer could be said to be illogical, but the three of them did not have any other way. Other than listening to Ning Cheng, they did not know what else to do. Perhaps in another 2 days, they would not be thinking about finding the geocentric 9 Yin essence, but rather how to get out of this place. Ning Cheng continued to walk down the terrain for another 2 days, while more and more Yin souls appeared along the way. We can't go on like this, we have to find a way back now, otherwise, we can only add 3 more skeletons to this place. As the 8th day was about to pass, Yin Kongchan finally stopped. Ning Cheng looked at Yin Kongchan indifferently and asked, "A way back? If you can figure out how to go back now, then I will go with you." Yin Kongchan was suddenly at a loss for words. If she knew the way back, then she would have already prepared to go back. The geocentric 9 Yin essence was very important to her, but no matter how important it was, she could not leave her life in this place. Xiaoxuan found a spiritual object. Suingde, who had been silent for the past few days, suddenly spoke out in a pleasant surprise. Suingde's words immediately stopped Yin Kongchan and Ning Cheng's dispute, as they both looked at Suingde. Although spiritual fox Xiaoxuan had also found a spiritual object a few days ago, but that spiritual object was only an underworld soul flower. Regardless of whether it was the geocentric 9 Yin essence or not, for a spiritual object to be found in this place, it was definitely not something ordinary. "You quickly lead the way." Yin Kongchan spoke without hesitation. Not needing Yin Kongchan to say anything, Suingde quickly walked out, while Ning Cheng and Yin Kongchan quickly followed behind. After the time it took for an incense stick to burn, Ning Cheng suddenly called out to Suingde, "Don't go any further. We've already arrived, the location that Xiaoxuan pointed out is about 3 feet in front of us." Suingde stopped and pointed to a dark rock not far away. "There is nothing there." Yin Kongchan looked at the empty space in front of them with a puzzled expression. Not waiting for Suingde to speak, Ning Cheng spoke out in a deep voice, "It is not that there is nothing here, as long as we go forward another 10 feet, we would enter a Yin spirit groove." Since he had experienced the Yin spirit groove, Ning Cheng had paid a lot of attention to Yin spirit grooves. "You said that this place is a Yin spirit groove?" "No, Xiaoxuan clearly said that there was a spiritual object here." Suingde could not believe it as she repeated the words. Ning Cheng nodded. Xiaoxuan should not be wrong. In the middle of the Yin spirit groove, there is a natural concealment array formation entrance. This concealment array formation is a natural rank 7 array formation, which is equivalent to something arranged by a rank 8 array formation Grand Master. It is normal for you to not be able to see it. You can even recognize a rank 7 natural concealment array formation. Yin Kongchan stared at Ning Cheng in shock. Even Suingde could not believe it as she stared at Ning Cheng. Cultivating a rank 7 array formation Grand Master required at least hundreds or even thousands of years, moreover it also required absolute talent. How old was Ning Cheng? Was this an old monster? Ning Cheng shook his head and spoke, "You don't have to look at me like that, although I am not a rank 7 array formation Grand Master, but I can enter the entrance of this concealment array formation." Although Ning Cheng was not a rank 7 array formation Grand Master, but he was a rank 6 array formation Grand Master. He was able to discover this array formation, and was able to quickly find the entrance to the array formation, all thanks to the Blood River Mountains and the bottom of the Blood River Mountains. He had deduced array formations at the bottom of the Blood River Mountains for several years. How could an ordinary array formation master compare to him? Before he obtained the mysterious yellow bead, Ning Cheng's memory and deduction ability were unparalleled. Coupled with the help of the mysterious yellow origin, his deduction of array formations for a few years was comparable to others who had continuously deduced for decades, or even hundreds of years. Although Ning Cheng said that he was not a rank 7 array formation Grand Master, but Yin Kongchan and Suingde were still extremely shocked. Even if he was not a rank 7 array formation Grand Master, being able to enter a rank 7 natural concealment array formation, he was definitely not lower than a rank 6 array formation Grand Master. Moreover, this array formation Grand Master was not something that an ordinary array formation Grand Master could compare to. Ning Cheng looked at Yin Kongchan and Suingde and spoke, "There are 2 ways. I will take you in with me, but I will have to hold you, and will not be able to carry you with my hands. Second, I will go in alone, the 2 of you will wait for me here." "I will go in with you." Suingde spoke up just as Ning Cheng's voice fell. Yin Kongchan only hesitated for a moment, before following Su Yingdai's words, "I will also go in with you." When Ningqing heard those words, he no longer spoke any nonsense, as he picked up Su Yingdai and Yin Kongchan, one by one, and embraced them in his arms, while simultaneously rushing into the Yin spirit groove. Su Yingdai and Yin Kongchan, the two of them, felt their bodies tighten, as they knew that Ningqing had already embraced them. The hearts of the two of them suddenly started to beat wildly. Even if they used their cultivation to suppress it, this kind of physiological change would not be able to suppress it. Do not look at the indifferent appearance of the two of them, even if they spoke without any taboos, but when they were really held in the arms of a man, they were still unable to remain calm. Sometimes saying it was one thing, but doing it was another. When Ningqing hugged the two of them, he did not think much about it, but when he held two soft to the extreme bodies in his arms, even if he deliberately did not think about it, some of his physiological reactions would still be involuntary. At this moment, he suddenly thought of Ji Luofei, and remembered the time when he and Luofei were hugging and kissing in that small rest stop. A heat rose from the bottom of his heart. Ningqing suddenly had a feeling that he could not wait to immediately tear off all the clothes of the woman in his arms. Boom boom. The innumerable Yin spirits were once again startled, and once again turned into a black fog, as they tried to wrap around Ningqing. Ningqing was startled in his heart. He understood that the after effects of cultivating in the small spiritual domain due to the yang qi burning his body had not yet completely disappeared. But at this moment of sobriety, how could he dare to continue to let his imagination run wild? His body was just like a fried dough twist, as he continuously spun around in the Yin spirit groove countless times. As Ningqing's body continued to spin, his figure, surrounded by the swarm of countless Yin spirits, gradually faded away, and soon disappeared. After the innumerable Yin spirits could no longer find Ningqing, they once again went into hiding. Yin Kongchan and Su Yingdai were still in Ningqing's arms, causing Ningqing's body temperature to rise, causing him to gasp for breath, and even using his hands to hold the two of them even tighter. The two of them immediately felt it. Although they had not experienced this kind of thing, it did not mean that they did not understand it. Seeing Ningqing in such a state, they immediately knew what the reason was. Fortunately, this embarrassment did not last long, as Ningqing put the two of them down. Yin Kongchan's face faded, as she glanced at Ningqing and spoke, "I always thought that you were a saint, but it seems that you are not." Geocentric 9 Yin Essence. Su Yingdai's surprised voice interrupted Ningqing's embarrassment and Yin Kongchan's words. Chapter 307. Ningqing and Yin Kongchan also saw the geocentric 9 Yin essence at the same time, although the three of them had never seen the geocentric 9 Yin essence before, but the moment they saw the geocentric 9 Yin essence, the three of them were sure that it was the thing they were looking for. Ningqing had always thought that the geocentric 9 Yin essence was a kind of geocentric essence liquid that seeped out from the underground rocks, but today he came to know that the geocentric 9 Yin essence was actually condensed from a plant. In front of the three of them, there was a bare mountain peak, and at the foot of the mountain peak, there was only some gravel. The mountain peak was gray in color, and was several tens of feet high. At the top of the mountain, there was a 3 feet tall plant with only a single leaf on it. This plant looked like a sunflower, with a round fruit at the top, the round fruit bending the plant down. Below the fruit, there was a drop of red liquid that had yet to drip. The three of them could clearly see it with their spiritual consciousness, and knew that this red liquid was the geocentric 9 Yin essence. At this time, there was a stone trough at the bottom of the plant, which was already half filled with this red liquid. But this stone trough was very small. Even if it was half filled, it would at most contain 2 to 3 bottles. I really did not think that the geocentric 9 Yin essence would actually seep out from a plant. Ningqing sighed, before he suddenly thought of something, as he looked back at Yin Kongchan and spoke, "You said that in order to obtain the geocentric 9 Yin essence, we would need the twin wings of the heavenly clouds, but this place does not require the twin wings of the heavenly clouds." Yin Kongchan spoke in a light voice, "That is because you did not disturb the plant that condenses the geocentric 9 Yin essence. Once it is disturbed, this bare mountain peak would immediately turn into an incomparably cold icicle. Not to mention our cultivation, even if it was someone with the cultivation of sea-opening realm, standing on this mountain peak would immediately turn them into ice. Moreover. As she spoke the word, moreover, Yin Kongchan stared into Ning Cheng's eyes. As she spoke one word at a time, there is only one chance to obtain the geocentric 9 Yin essence. You must completely extract the geocentric 9 Yin essence from the stone trough before this mountain peak turns into an icicle. Otherwise, it would be tantamount to us coming here in vain. Once you disturb the small tree that condenses the geocentric 9 Yin essence, even if it is the geocentric 9 Yin essence in the stone trough, it would still freeze into nothingness. Ning Cheng understood the meaning of Yin Kongchan's words, as he asked in shock, in other words, even if I have the twin wings of the heavenly clouds, I would only have one chance to obtain it. As long as you go and obtain it, wouldn't it also alarm the plant that is condensing the geocentric 9 Yin essence? That's right, you only have one chance. Moreover, you have to be as fast as possible. If we stand here for too long, it would definitely startle that plant. Yin Kongchan looked at the plant on the summit and spoke with a sigh. Ning Cheng did not ask again, but took out 2 jade bottles and held them in his hands. He estimated that the geocentric 9 Yin essence in the stone trough could only fill 2 jade bottles. After he was ready, Ning Cheng took a few steps forward, and suddenly vigorously stimulated the twin wings of the heavenly clouds. A kind of icy chill seeped out from the foot of the bare mountain peak. Ning Cheng immediately felt it. This originally dark and bare mountain peak, at this moment, unexpectedly exuded a layer of white frost. At the same time, a kind of horrifying chill directly rushed towards Ning Cheng, as if in the next moment it would freeze Ning Cheng's twin wings of the heavenly clouds. Not good, he had already startled that plant. Moreover, this kind of icy chill was also coming from below. Once the geocentric 9 Yin essence in the stone trough froze, then even taking such a big risk to come here, it would only be for naught. Ning Cheng crazily stimulated the twin wings of the heavenly clouds, as he rushed upwards. In the distance, Yin Kongchan and Su Yingde were shocked as they looked at the bare mountain peak. From the bottom of the mountain peak to the top, it gradually turned white, just like flowing water. This kind of icy chill coming from below made the two of them incomparably nervous. If it was in an ordinary place, then Ning Cheng would only need to casually stimulate the twin wings of the heavenly clouds to cover a distance of several dozen feet. But in this place, every time he stimulated the twin wings of the heavenly clouds, he could feel the endless icy cold pressure. Moreover, the space around him felt as if it was frozen by the icy cold emanating from the bare mountain peak, which made him feel as if he was in a pot of extremely viscous sugar. When the cold air invaded Ning Cheng's feet, it even condensed a layer of white frost on his feet, causing Ning Cheng's heart to tighten. He knew that if this cold air reached the summit a step ahead of him, then it would be tantamount to what Yin Kongchan had said, that he would have come here in vain. Thinking of this, Ning Cheng's blood suddenly started to boil. Even the remnant poisonous yang qi from the small spiritual domain in his body also started to stir up. At this moment, the layer of white frost on his feet instantly turned into nothing. Yin Kongchan and Su Yingde were very familiar with this hot yang qi. Not long ago, when they had been hugged by Ning Cheng's body had also exuded a similar hot aura. Yin Kongchan understood in an instant that Ning Cheng had deliberately hugged her a moment ago. It seems that it was because of the influence of this aura. As the chill at Ning Cheng's feet disappeared, his speed once again increased a bit. After vigorously stimulating the twin wings of the heavenly clouds a few times, Ning Cheng was finally able to see the stone trough. At this time, Ning Cheng did not even think about it, as he directly picked up the geocentric 9 Yin essence from the stone trough and put it into the 2 jade bottles, while simultaneously putting the jade bottles back into his ring. Just as Ning Cheng put the jade bottles into his ring, the terrifying icy cold aura swept over. A vast expanse of white cold air completely wrapped around Ning Cheng and the mountain peak that Ning Cheng was standing on. Ning Cheng's twin wings of the heavenly clouds seemed to have frozen solid, and could no longer be used. The next moment, Ning Cheng fell down like a kite with a broken string. Ning Cheng was greatly shocked in his heart, but the more he fell, the heavier the icy cold became. He could not even make any movements, even his consciousness started to blur. Suing-dae and In Kong-chan, almost at the same time, immediately rushed up. Bang! Ning Ching smashed into the hands of the two people, causing the two of them to directly fall to the ground, causing the three of them to fall together. From a height of several dozen feet, even with two great circle of soul essence cultivators joining hands, they unexpectedly were not able to completely catch Ning Cheng, and even caused the three of them to fall together. Ka. At this moment, Ning Cheng's bones started to crack, as if icicles were being cracked, and were clearly visible. In Kong-chan picked up Ning Cheng with difficulty, and spoke to Suing-dae, "Let's hurry up, the cold air in this place is getting heavier and heavier, and will eventually turn all three of us into icicles." Suing-dae knew that the situation was urgent, and also reluctantly got up, as she stumbled behind In Kong-chan, and quickly escaped from this terrifying gray mountain peak. As the three of them went further away, the surrounding cold air was getting less and less, and finally no longer had any effect on them. In Kong-chan and Suing-dae were originally at the foot of the mountain, as such their situation was much better than Ning Cheng's. Ning Cheng's cultivation was the lowest, moreover he had to bear the brunt of the impact, as such when he fell from the top of the mountain, his 5 viscera and 6 bowels were almost completely frozen. At this time, being able to keep his body intact, it was already because of In Kong-chan's speed, otherwise his body would have already cracked from the cold. "Is Ning Cheng alright?" Suing-dae wiped the trace of blood from the corner of her mouth, as she nervously asked. In Kong-chan looked at Ning Cheng, and spoke with a frown, "His situation is somewhat serious, moreover he has completely lost consciousness." Saying that, In Kong-chan looked around, and once again spoke, "Don't you think that this place is very strange? Not only is the spiritual consciousness 10 times stronger than it was in the Hidden Mist Cemetery, but it is also incomparably spacious." Suing-dae gave an "n" sound, but did not directly answer In Kong-chan's question, rather she pointed to Ning Cheng and In Kong-chan's hands and spoke, "You give him to me, I can use my true essence to help him." In Kong-chan did not hand Ning Cheng over to Suing-dae, but spoke in a cold voice, "Even if you want to sever your emotions, you will have to wait for Ning Cheng to wake up. Now that Ning Cheng is seriously injured, I don't feel at ease handing him over to you." Suing-dae spoke up in a sad voice, "I was even willing to swallow the burning life pill for him, why would I want to harm him? Even if I wanted to sever my emotions, he does not even like me, so why would I go and sever my emotions?" In Kong-chan still spoke in a calm voice, "If you were not Suing-dae, then I would have believed it, but unfortunately, you are called Suing-dae." Suing-dae also calmed down, as she calmly looked at In Kong-chan and spoke, "If you also like him, then I will not compete with you, but you at least have to let me try, to see if I can save Ning Cheng." In Kong-chan spoke with an indifferent voice, "There is no need to use so much scheming between the two of us. In the past, your ancestor Su Binglan and my ancestor Sang Yen both liked the Heavenly Tao Academy's Yen Fenghua. This kind of thing will never happen a second time. You can rest assured, the reason why I saved Ning Cheng is because Ning Cheng saved me a few times. It is the same reason why you used the burning life pill to save Ning Cheng. I do not like Ning Cheng, so when Ning Cheng recovers, you can go ahead and sever your emotions. Now that you can use your true essence to help Ning Cheng, I can also do the same. Your surname is In." Suing-dae's tone turned cold. In Kong-chan did not care about it, as she still spoke in a calm voice, "My master is the Floating Snow Palace's 7th Palace Master Seng Jeju, she is also my mother. I do not want to continue to follow my mother's surname. Is it not possible for me to follow my father's surname?" Seeing Suing-dae remain silent, In Kong-chan suddenly spoke up, "Before Ning Cheng wakes up, you will always be with me, whether or not I will do anything to Ning Cheng, you can also see it clearly." As the two people spoke until here, they unexpectedly thought of the same thing. Then the two people looked at each other, and did not speak anymore. When Ning Cheng woke up, he found himself sleeping alone on a couch in a small room. He was startled in his heart, as he quickly jumped up and sat up. At the same time, he stretched out his spiritual consciousness, causing his spiritual consciousness to instantly extend to a distance of a few thousand meters. Moreover, he was still in the space where he collected the geocentric 9 In essence. Ning Cheng immediately understood. When he had entered this space before, he immediately knew that his spiritual consciousness had expanded a lot. Not only that, but there was also no corpse mist chi in this place. Ning Qing soon discovered that a person was missing. Not only was there a person missing, but Su Yingde, who was left outside the room, was covered in blood and lying on the ground. Yin Kongchan's figure had disappeared without a trace, at least within the range of his spiritual consciousness. He could not find Yin Kongchan. Ning Qing quickly got up, rushed out of the room, and helped Su Yingde up. After discovering that Su Yingde was only seriously injured, he felt relieved in his heart, as he quickly took out a healing pill and put it into Su Yingde's mouth. After a few breaths, Su Yingde opened her eyes. As she saw Ning Qing, she immediately spoke up in surprise. "You woke up? And, thank you very much. What happened? How come I did not see Yin Kongchan?" Ning Qing knew that although Su Yingde's injuries were not light, but with the help of his pill, such injuries were nothing. Chapter 308. I don't know, when you were lying on the bed, you were not awake, and I was injured because of the cold, and was healing myself. Later when I opened my eyes, I saw Yin Kongchan sitting beside you looking at your hand. I quickly asked her what happened. Suddenly I felt a pain in my back, someone sneak attacked me from behind. Because I was seriously injured by the cold, I did not notice it. When I woke up, the first thing I saw was you. Speaking till here, Su Yingde's face suddenly changed. Apparently she also knew that Yin Kongchan seemed to have met with a disaster. My ring is gone. Ning Qing seemed to have discovered that the ring in his hand had disappeared, and spoke up in shock. Ah! Su Yingde, on hearing that Ning Cheng's ring had disappeared, was even more surprised than Ning Cheng. Immediately grabbing her hand, she spoke up in a somewhat sad voice, "My ring is also gone." For a cultivator, in this kind of place, to lose their ring, it really was not a good thing. Ning Qing secretly sighed in his heart. If someone really sneak attacked Su Yingde, and then took away Yin Kongchan, how could they leave the two of them alive? Ning Qing suddenly felt that this scene was very familiar. When he was studying in Jiangzhou, he liked to read Jin Yong's novels. This scene, he had seen it in the novels. Wasn't this Su Yingde similar to that Lady Zhao? The only difference was that he was not that elder brother Zhang who did not have many schemes. Fortunately, the ring was not taken away. Ning Qing picked up the ring from the ground in fear, and then put it on his hand. No one knew that he had two rings in his hand, one of which he had engraved a concealment array formation restriction, which was also his miniature world. This ring could only be sensed by him, others would not be able to see it. As for the other ring, it was just an ordinary ring. Only an expert in the Tao of array formations, and a cultivator with a very powerful cultivation, would be able to see his other concealment ring. Once his concealment ring was seen by others, then his attainments in array formations would also be exposed. Although there were not many people who could see through the rank 6 array formation engraved on the ring, but it did not mean that there were none. When Ning Qing first met Rui Baishan, his concealment ring had already been seen through by Rui Baishan. Because of his ring, Rui Baishan knew that Ning Cheng was an array formation expert, but Rui Baishan did not mention it. Also because Ning Cheng did not lose his miniature world, although Ning Cheng had a shocked look on his face, in fact, he did not worry too much. Looks like they've been planning this for a long time. Ning Cheng gave a cold snort and put the ring back on, but the next moment Ning Cheng took off the ring that he had just put on. "No, this ring is not mine." This time Ning Cheng was not pretending. He really thought that the ring that fell to the ground was his, but he did not think that this ring really was not his. At this time, he was really scared. Fortunately, he had two rings, one real and one fake. It was also because he had not used this fake ring that he did not notice it immediately. After a good while, Su Yingde finally reacted and quickly asked, "Are all of your things inside the ring?" Ning Qing did not answer. He was silent for a long time, before he suddenly spoke up. "Could it be that Yin Kongchan did it?" Su Yingde immediately spoke up with affirmation. "No, when I was attacked, Yin Kongchan was sitting by your bed, it was definitely not her." "Does Yin Kongchan have a puppet?" When we were riding the shuttle, it was her puppet that controlled it. Ning Cheng asked again. Su Yingday's complexion changed, as she seemed to have thought of this puppet. After a while, she still shook her head and spoke, "It's not her. If it was her, then she would have already succeeded. Why would she leave the two of us behind?" Speaking till here, Su Yingday suddenly stopped, as she looked at Ning Cheng with some shock. Although she did not say it, Ning Cheng understood what she meant, that there was a fourth person here. Ning Cheng also did not speak, although Su Yingday affirmed that it was not Yin Kong-chan who did it, but her tone was pointing towards Yin Kong-chan. The only thing that could not be justified was why Yin Kong-chan did not kill the two of them in the end. Unless there really was a fourth person, but even if there really was a fourth person, it still could not be justified. On the contrary, the possibility of it being done by Yin Kong-chan was much higher. Yin Kong-chan had taken away Ning Cheng's ring, as she was grateful to Ning Cheng for saving her several times. As such, she left Ning Cheng's life intact. Even because she obtained the geocentric 9 Yin essence, she did not even take away Ning Cheng's twin wings of the heavenly clouds. Would Yin Kong-chan really have a talisman to leave this place? Ning Cheng asked again, but did not mention anything about the ring. Although Ning Cheng asked Su Yingday, he was very clear in his heart that it was definitely not done by Yin Kong-chan. After Su Yingday was seriously injured, there was nothing suspicious about her being sneak attacked by the puppet. However, Yin Kong-chan spared Su Yingday, which he could not figure out. Yin Kong-chan might have let Ning Cheng go, but she would never let Su Yingday go. Moreover, Ning Cheng was very clear as to why he woke up. It was because Yin Kong-chan had hugged him when he fell down. At that time, he still had a little bit of consciousness, and at that moment, he remembered Rui Baishan's words. In times of need, one must believe in the friends around them, that is the only thing that can help you. He did not struggle. Struggling at this time was not much different from suicide. He chose to believe in Yin Kong-chan. In fact, he did not do anything wrong. The injuries in his body were healed by Yin Kong-chan's true essence. In other words, Yin Kong-chan had really helped him. Yin Kong-chan and Su Yingday, he knew that the true essence of the two people were completely different. "I just hope that Yin Kong-chan is alright." Su Yingday spoke with a sigh. She not only put aside the matter of her ring, but was also somewhat worried about Yin Kong-chan. Ning Cheng looked at Su Yingday with a puzzled expression. "Your relationship with Yin Kong-chan does not seem to be very good." Su Yingday lowered her head, and only spoke after a long time, "Because I also learned not long ago that she and I are related by blood. My ancestor and her ancestor are the same person. I do not want anything to happen to her." After listening to Su Yingday's words, Ning Cheng nodded, and did not continue to ask about it. Su Yingday's words were not so much worried about Yin Kong-chan, but rather to find a good reason for Yin Kong-chan not to kill her. Ning Cheng just spoke, "My injuries have already begun to recover. Let's find a way to leave this place. We must leave this place as soon as possible." No matter what Su Yingday did to Yin Kong-chan, even taking away his fake ring, Ning Cheng could not do anything to Su Yingday. A few days ago, if not for Su Yingday burning her lifespan to save him, then perhaps he would have already fallen into the Black Lake. Although that transfer talisman was his only life-saving measure, but who knows if it would really work. No matter what Su Yingday thought at that time, she had paid a price that was almost equivalent to her life to save him. Ning Cheng clearly distinguished between gratitude and grudges. Kindness was kindness. In any case, he would help Su Yingday restore her lifespan, or help Su Yingday advance to the soul-sculpting realm. As Ning Cheng and Su Yingday left the place, he immediately spread out his spiritual consciousness. He wanted to find out if there was an exit from this place. Regardless of whether he could get out or not, he could not return to the Hidden Mist Cemetery for the time being. The Hidden Mist Cemetery was filled with poisonous fog, and they currently did not have any barrier-dispelling pills. The two people had only walked for the time it took for half an incense stick to burn, when Ning Cheng's footsteps came to a stop. At the edge of his spiritual consciousness, there was unexpectedly a familiar figure. Yin Kong-chan. The next moment, Ning Cheng was able to determine that this familiar figure was Yin Kong-chan. Seeing Yin Kong-chan fall to the ground, Ning Cheng immediately sped up. It's Yin Kong-chan. After approaching Yin Kong-chan, Suing-dae spoke out in a trembling voice. Yin Kong-chan's face was also extremely pale, and her body was also covered in blood. Moreover, it looked like her injuries were even more serious than Suing-dae's. Ning Qing did not hesitate to step forward and help Yin Kong-chan up, while simultaneously throwing a pill into Yin Kong-chan's mouth. Ning Cheng's healing pills were refined by himself, although the grade was not high, but the quality was several times better than other pills of the same grade. In just a dozen breaths, Yin Kong-chan opened her eyes. After she saw Ning Cheng, she breathed a sigh of relief, closed her eyes, and continued to heal herself. After saving Yin Kong-chan, Ning Cheng felt that Suing-dae did not panic much. He suddenly had some doubts about his own judgment. Was it really not Suing-dae's doing? Another hour passed by. Yin Kong-chan finally stood up, nodded to Ning Cheng and spoke, "Thank you for saving me once again. I'll have to change my clothes first." Saying that, Yin Kong-chan casually activated a simple concealment restriction. With this kind of restriction, Ning Cheng could vaguely see the situation inside with his eyes. Ning Cheng turned his head. He did not have the mind to peep at Yin Kong-chan. Ning Cheng really noticed that the injuries on Yin Kong-chan's body were not caused by Suing-dae's blue sword, causing him to become even more confused in his heart. After the time it took for half an incense stick to burn, Yin Kong-chan put away the restriction, and once again changed into a clean light yellow robe. Other than her pale complexion, and her somewhat unstable aura, there did not seem to be anything special about her. "I met a kind of monstrous beast here. This kind of monstrous beast comes and goes without a trace. I did not pay attention to it, and ended up seriously injured by the monstrous beast's sneak attack." Yin Kong-chan took the initiative to explain, but did not say why she appeared in this place alone. Ning Cheng suddenly spoke up, "Yin Kong-chan, I'm sorry, but I have no way to give you the geocentric 9 Yin essence, because my ring was taken away." Yin Kong-chan's face immediately turned gloomy, and only after a while did she speak up, "If I had it then I would have been lucky, if I lost it then it would have been my fate. Since I obtained it in my hands, and then lost it again, it shows that I am destined to have an incomplete soul essence." "Why did you appear here?" Ning Cheng did not ask Yin Kong-chan if she had taken away his ring, but rather asked Yin Kong-chan why she appeared in a place thousands of meters away from them. If not for his powerful spiritual consciousness, he would have never been able to find Yin Kong-chan. "After I helped you recuperate with my true essence." Yin Kong-chan had only spoken half a sentence, when a roaring sound that almost suppressed her heart swept over them. The next moment, the three of them simultaneously saw a funnel-shaped black vortex with a radius of several hundred feet sweeping towards them. This funnel-shaped black vortex was extremely terrifying, and its speed was incomparably fast. In just a breath, it had already arrived in front of the three of them. "Hurry up and escape." Ning Cheng gave a loud shout, as he immediately stimulated the twin wings of the heavenly clouds. However, before he could even unfurl the twin wings of the heavenly clouds, the next moment he, Yin Kong-chan and Suing-dae, the three of them, were simultaneously swept away by this extremely terrifying funnel-shaped black vortex, before disappearing without a trace from this place. Chapter 309. What is this place? Have we already been transmitted out? Suing-dae got up in shock, and immediately asked. She was wearing a white robe, which combined with her snow-white hair, made her look somewhat illusory. However, coupled with her incomparably beautiful face, it added a bit of poignant beauty to this illusory image. Ning Cheng and Yin Kong-chan woke up at the same time. The three of them were not very far from each other. As the dazzling sunlight shone on their bodies, it made the three of them very clear that this was definitely not the hidden mist cemetery, nor was it the space where the geocentric 9 Yin essence was stored. Ning Cheng stood up, patted off the fine sand on his body, and looked up at the endless desert. He knew that this was definitely not the place where they had been transmitted out. There was not even a shred of spiritual chi in this place. Not only that, even his sea of consciousness was completely sealed. The true essence in his dantian seemed to have fallen asleep, without even a trace of movement. In other words, Ning Cheng had experienced this kind of feeling for more than 20 years, how could he not be clear about it? When he lived on earth, it was also in this kind of state. There was no spiritual consciousness, no true essence, he was just an ordinary mortal. Yin Kong-chan also got up, her pale yellow robe under the reflection of the sunlight, looked even more refined. We did not get out, and were transmitted to a place even more terrifying than the space we were in. There is no spiritual chi in this place, even our sea of consciousness is sealed, even our true essence cannot be used. In this place, we are just like ordinary mortals. Moreover, Yin Kong-chan spoke slowly. Yin Kong-chan looked at Ning Cheng and Su Yingde and spoke, moreover, in this place, we need to be like the most ordinary people, running around for food, otherwise one day we will starve to death. Ning Cheng and Su Yingde, who had not felt anything before, immediately felt a burst of hunger after listening to Yin Kong-chan's words. Ning Cheng was shocked in his heart, he once again remembered one of the 3 experiences that Rui Baishan had given him. At any time, there must be a guarantee of survival, and not starve to death. Previously, because of Rui Baishan's experience, he had thought that it was useless to refine some fasting pills, fresh water pills and other things. If they were trapped in this place and could not get out, then how precious would the fasting pills and fresh water pills that they had refined be? How was it useless? Thinking till here, Ning Cheng subconsciously touched his belt. This belt was something that he had specially refined for the Hidden Mist Cemetery. It contained more than 200 fresh water pills, more than 200 fasting pills, as well as a toothbrush, along with a Mitsubishi thorn tied to his calf. In addition, he also refined a cloth bag, some medicinal pills for treating illnesses, some wrist guards, daggers, binoculars, compasses, and other outdoor survival supplies. Unfortunately, these things were all in the cloth bag. At that time, because he felt that he was doing something stupid, he threw the cloth bag into the ring and could not take it out again. This meant that he had refined some things when he had a sense of crisis, but most of these things could not be used. Once again touching his belt, Ning Cheng secretly rejoiced. Fortunately he had not thrown his belt into his ring, otherwise his previous sense of crisis would have been completely useless. Thinking of useless efforts, Ning Cheng once again thought of Rui Baishan, and felt even more horrified in his heart. Suddenly, he discovered that the few meaningless suggestions that Rui Baishan had given him turned out to be quite useful. In his most helpless time, he had chosen to believe in Yin Kong-chan, and the result was that Yin Kong-chan had really saved him. Later, because he suspected the 2 of them, Su Yingde and Yin Kong-chan's words were directly ignored by him. Wasn't this the other suggestion that Rui Baishan had given him, that is, when necessary, do not fully believe in the friends around you? Coupled with the suggestion to not starve to death, Ning Cheng at this time discovered that Rui Baishan's 3 suggestions were not only useful, but also very useful. Did Rui Baishan also come to this place? Or did Rui Baishan know that he wanted to come to this place? If it was the latter, then Rui Baishan was simply too terrifying. Yin Kong-chan, I want to ask you a question. In my hometown, there is no spiritual chi, and one cannot even cultivate. Moreover, a person's lifespan is also limited. Is this place the same as that place? Ning Cheng immediately thought of Earth. Would his spiritual consciousness and true essence be completely sealed when he returned to Earth in the future? Yin Kong-chan shook her head. No, these are 2 completely different places. In a place where one cannot cultivate, one can still circulate one's true essence, stretch out one's spiritual consciousness, and even use magical techniques. It's just that one's cultivation would stagnate. The place we are in, the Grand Palace Master told me that this place is called the Forsaken Land. The Forsaken Land does not have spiritual chi, one cannot use true essence, and one cannot use spiritual consciousness. In this place, any magical techniques are all fake. In this place, whether it is a cultivator, an immortal, or a powerhouse, all of them must be like mortals, running around for survival. Ning Cheng remained silent, and did not continue to speak. He was thinking that if he could not get out, then could he use the talisman from the bottom of the Blood River to leave this place? Immediately Ning Cheng put aside this idea. He had already thrown the talisman into his ring, and now he could not take out anything from his ring, so what was the point of talking about the talisman? What are you looking at me for? Ning Cheng looked up and saw Yin Kong-chan and Su Yingde staring at him, and casually asked a question, but soon he understood why the two of them were looking at him. Su Yingde and Yin Kong-chan were both core disciples of major academies. Such disciples were trained by their academies from an early age. Even if they went out to gain experience, it was not for survival. In the case of having magical power, of course they could do whatever they wanted. Now that they could not use their true essence and spiritual consciousness, they were equivalent to ordinary mortals. As ordinary mortals, the two women did not have any ability to survive, and were obviously not as good as a grassroots character like him. Let's leave this desert first, and find something to fill our stomachs. Ning Cheng simply spoke. He did not take out his fasting pills, nor did he take out his fresh water pills. The reason was very simple. Ning Cheng felt that Su Yingde and Yin Kong-chan were a bit strange, at least the two of them were hiding something from him. Because of this, he did not continue to ask Yin Kong-chan why she did not come with them, and instead chose to leave alone. Of course, there was another reason. He did not have many fasting pills and fresh water pills. If the three of them did not work hard, and only relied on these things to consume, then they would not be able to persist for a long time. Su Yingde and Yin Kong-chan simply did not know what to do, and obviously did not have any objections. The two of them consciously followed behind Ning Cheng. Without their cultivation, the two women were far inferior to Ning Cheng, who had not yet fully recovered. In just half a day, the two women were gasping for breath, and their faces were pale. Under the scorching sun, even their lips started to crack. As their sweat evaporated, they became even weaker. Even Ning Cheng could feel his strength dropping rapidly. If he did not get out of the desert as soon as possible, then his more than 200 fresh water pills would definitely not last for long. I don't think I will be able to get out of this desert. I never thought that I would be so desperate for a drop of water. Yin Kong-chan looked at the endless yellow sand in the distance, as well as the gradually setting sun, and spoke with a somewhat hoarse voice. Ning Cheng sighed and asked, Yin Kong-chan, you have some understanding of the Forsaken Land. Can you tell me, has anyone ever come out of the Forsaken Land? When he asked this question, he was already prepared to take out the fresh water pills and fasting pills, so that each of them could first replenish some of their strength. Yin Kong-chan stopped, shook her head and spoke, the people who enter the Forsaken Land are all people who have been abandoned by the heavens and earth. I have never heard of anyone coming out. However, I am sure that we can get out of this place, otherwise no one would know about the Forsaken Land. After saying that, Yin Kong-chan looked at Ning Cheng and spoke, Ning Cheng, why didn't you continue to ask me after we entered this place? I think that the three of us should cooperate with each other. These questions can be asked later. Ning Cheng spoke as if he did not care about it. Yin Kong-chan and Su Yingde were not fools. Ning Cheng's words indicated that he already knew a few things, causing the three of them to turn silent in an instant. If we choose a direction, and then keep moving forward, then we will eventually get out of this desert. Ning Cheng broke the silence between the three of them, while feeling a bit of pity in his heart. He felt that it was a pity that the compass that he had refined was inside the cloth bag inside his ring. If only he had the compass in his hands. At this time, two shadows appeared in the distance in the line of sight of the three people. Is there someone? Su Yingde and Yin Kong-chan spoke up at the same time. There are two people. Ning Cheng also spoke up in a pleasantly surprised voice. Since there were people here, then it meant that there was soil for them to survive. As such, the three of them did not have to worry about starving to death or even dying of thirst. The two shadows were getting bigger and bigger, and soon arrived in front of the three people. These two shadows were men. When Ning Cheng saw these two men, his heart immediately sank. The skin of these two men was just like tree bark, their complexion was dry, their hair was yellowish, and their bodies were covered in a brown color. This was obviously the result of a long-term water shortage. Only then would one have this kind of condition. These two people should be the people who lived in the vicinity, since even they did not have water to drink. Ning Qing could imagine that even if the three of them found a place where people lived, water should also be a scarce resource. After the two men arrived in front of the Ning Qing trio, their eyes stared straight at Su Yingde and Yin Kongchan, and even stretched out their dark brown tongues to lick their lips. Ning Qing could clearly see the terrible desire in the eyes of these two people. It seemed that they had never seen such a beautiful woman, such a watery woman. These two people only hesitated for a moment, before, as if they had gone crazy, they immediately rushed towards Su Yingde and Yin Kongchan, without even uttering a single word. Although Yin Kongchan and Su Yingde did not have any true essence, they also did not have any spiritual power. However, they were still soul essence cultivators, as such their eyesight was still there, and their movements were also quite agile. Almost at the same time when the two men rushed towards them, the two of them immediately stepped aside. The two men fell to the sand, but the next moment the two men quickly climbed up again. Their movements were unexpectedly very agile, but this time the desire in their eyes was even more intense. However, this time the two of them only spoke a few words to each other, and did not continue to rush towards Yin Kongchan and Su Yingde, but instead rushed towards Ning Qing. Apparently the two of them knew that Yin Kongchan and Su Yingde would not be able to escape, as such they wanted to kill Ning Qing first. Chapter 310. Yes, it's doable. Not only is there a big bucket of water, but there's also a pond for bathing. You can also eat big fish and meat. Sigh, I don't have this luck. Who asked me to be a man? I wish you good luck, I'm leaving now. Ning Qing finished speaking, as he turned around and walked away. Although these moves were not as fast as a falcon, but they were still incomparably agile. Compared to Yin Kongchan and Su Yingde, Ning Cheng's advantage was obvious. Ning Qing glanced at Yin Kongchan and spoke out lightly, I really did not think that the premier disciple of the floating snow palace would turn out to be such a sentimental person. Suit yourself. Did you not find a place to live? Ning Qing looked at Yin Kongchan in doubt. Perhaps it was Ning Cheng's last sentence that encouraged Yin Kongchan and Su Yingde, as the two of them seemed to have gained a bit more strength, as the three of them soon arrived at the position that Ning Qing had mentioned. Now that these two men rushed towards him, Ning Qing was not worried at all. The two of them were unarmed, and they charged over without any hesitation. They were too arrogant. Ning Qing bent over, and pulled out the Mitsubishi thorn that was tied to his calf. There was also a sentence that Yin Kongchan did not say, if Su Yingde fell in love with Ning Qing, then she would kill any woman who had a relationship with Ning Qing. After walking for most of the night, when the sky was about to turn bright, Su Yingde stopped and said, Ning Qing, we can't walk anymore. If we continue to walk like this, then tomorrow when the sun rises, we will still die. Ning Qing looked into the distance and spoke, the skin of these two men is dry, it is obvious that they lack water. However, the two of them were very agile. It could be seen that although they lacked food and water, they still had a source of food and water. At least the food and water did not threaten their lives. There was one more thing. The two of them appeared here without anything on them, which meant that they didn't live far from here. If I'm not wrong, there should be a village that looks like a tribe from the direction they came from. We will rest here for a day, and then we can decide where to go. Ning Qing immediately found the largest cave among the rocks, and drilled into it. There was no pond, or rather, not a drop of water. However, there was a large stretch of dried poplars and a large group of protruding rocks. Ning Qing took a look. This large stretch of dried-up poplar trees could block the strongest sunlight from shining on the rocks. Yin Kongchan, who was squatting on the other side of Ning Qing, suddenly spoke up, there must be some water in this castle, why don't we go and steal some at night? Regarding Ning Cheng's words, Yin Kongchan did not find it strange. She was silent for a moment before she spoke. The reason why I took your ring was because I wanted to complete that trace of my soul, and then advance to the soul sculpting realm, and then come back to take you out of here, while also returning the ring to you. Whether you believe it or not, that's what I think. I've always done things based on my heart, not because I want to do anything to you. I'm doing this because I don't want to owe you anything. I left you and Suingdae. Suingdae knows about it. Moreover, I have my own reasons for leaving. In Kongchan spoke in a somewhat depressed tone. When these two men rushed towards Suingdae and In Kongchan, their eyes were filled with a naked wild desire. This kind of desire, in addition to the kind of desire between men and women, also contained a kind of hunger and thirst. From the way they licked their lips, Ning Qing could see it. Ning Qing stood up, patted off the sand on his body and spoke, "Ah, maybe you can steal a bucket of water at night, you wouldn't even be able to finish it." In Kongchan did not bother with Ning Cheng's words, she just looked at the two men who were killed by Ning Cheng, and spoke with some lingering fear, "Fortunately you killed these two people, otherwise if these people pounced on me, I would have died of nausea." Pa! A crisp sound rang out as Suingdae fell to the ground, her face was as pale as paper as she stood at the entrance of the cave. Ning Cheng once again gave a smile and spoke, "Don't think that these two fellows just wanted to force themselves on you, they would even drink your blood, and even eat your flesh. But we..." In Kongchan spoke those 4 words in a hoarse voice, but did not continue. She felt that her throat was smoking. Even if they starved to death, it would still be much better than having no water to drink. Ning Cheng was not much better than the two women, but Ning Cheng knew in his heart that he had a lot of fresh water, as such his spirit was much stronger than the two women. "Are we going to the settlement tribe now?" In Kongchan nervously looked at Ning Cheng. When he saw Suingdae and In Kongchan also following them, he spoke in a somewhat puzzled voice, "There is more than one cave here, you can just look for another one, why are you following me?" In Kongchan shook her head and spoke, "I found it, but it is not as good as your place, I came here to explain a few things to you." As Ning Cheng finished speaking, he had already chosen the largest side cave. This cave had a radius of several square meters, because of the surrounding poplar trees, plus the fact that the cave could not be completely sealed, the wind blowing over the open sandy ground was even somewhat cool. It was just that there was a kind of whimpering sound, which made people who heard it feel a bit creeped out. The tri-edged thorn stabbed into the chest of the first person, before it was instantly pulled out by Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng rolled on the ground, quickly got up, and then turned around and stabbed the tri-edged thorn into the back of the second person. Only an idiot would think of going to the settlement to steal water at night. Of course, Ning Cheng also knew that In Kongchan was just too thirsty for water. What she said was not wrong, this was not a village, rather it was indeed a fort, but this fort was in a dilapidated state, it was no different from a dilapidated wall. If it weren't for the occasional few figures walking through the stone castle, it would seem as if the stone castle was dead. Moreover, I also know that as long as I take away the ring, even if Suingdae wanted to sever her emotions, she would not kill you. The things that she needs are in my hands, the mirage stones in your ring, the geocentric 9-in essence, and the mirage tree are all things that she needs. Ning Cheng waved his hand and spoke, "Let's first carefully look at the situation, if the situation is not good, then we will change direction and leave this place." How could In Kongchan not know that Ning Cheng was ridiculing her for having a simple mind? Who made her so thirsty for water? Now that Ning Cheng had left, she could only helplessly follow Ning Cheng. Suingdae simply did not speak much, and did not hesitate to leave with Ning Cheng. There were some stones in the cave. Ning Cheng sat down on a slightly larger stone, and was preparing to eat a fasting pill and a fresh water pill, when In Kongchan walked in. In Kongchan gave a sigh and spoke, "Before you started cultivating, did you practice your punches and kicks? What should we do now?" Suingdae and In Kongchan asked at the same time in a hoarse voice. It was obvious that the two of them did not have any ideas at the moment. In Kongchan shook her head and spoke, "No, she should have really fallen in love with you, at least for now she will not harm you. Or rather, she has already fallen in love with you, and is not at ease leaving you in my hands. It is because of this, that I had to leave you and Suingdae. There really is a fort." Suingdae, who was squatting on the ground, looked at the broken and mottled wall in the distance in amazement. Suingdae glanced at Ning Cheng, but did not speak. Yin Kongchan pointed to a few small holes on the side of the cave and spoke, "There are several small holes here. If we stay together we would be able to take care of each other. Maybe tomorrow we will never be able to be together again." Yin Kongchan and Su Yingde looked at the triangular-edged thorn in Ning Cheng's hands, and then looked at the two men who were lying on the ground, unable to move. After a good while, Su Yingde spoke up, "Where did you take out that dagger from?" When Ning Cheng heard this, his heart immediately softened. He knew that Yin Kongchan was right. Without Yin Kongchan, he really would have frozen to death. "Whether you admit it or not, you were saved by me, moreover I was the one who held you in my hands. The cold poison in your body, it was also me who used my true essence to dissolve it." Ning Cheng suddenly sneered and spoke, "If that's the case, then I should really thank you. The two of you have such a tacit understanding, yet you took away my ring. Su Yingde took me away, you both did not suffer a loss, but I was the one who was the spendthrift, right? Two self-righteous women. You also think that my method is feasible, right?" Yin Kongchan, on seeing that her idea was approved by Ning Cheng, spoke out in a pleasantly surprised voice. It could be seen to what extent her thirst for water had reached. When Ning Cheng saw the two men rushing towards Yin Kongchan and Su Yingde, he did not move. He also wanted to know, these two female cultivators were from a large academy, whether they were really weak, or if they had some other kind of martial skill. Even if he knew that there were people living in front of him, Ning Cheng would not go over. He had already seen two people in front of him. Even if his tri-edged thorn was powerful, it would only be able to kill a limited number of people. Once the tribe had a master, or a large number of people, he was sure that he would be eaten alive. But Su Yingde and Yin Kongchan could only be more miserable. Two people at the great circle of the soul essence realm that he could not even defeat, were killed by him with just 2 stabs. Ning Cheng felt a bit proud in his heart. Of course, he knew that it was not luck. Wasn't there a saying, even if you have high martial skills, you would still be afraid of a kitchen knife? These two people simply did not have any martial skills, not to mention that he was using a tri-edged thorn that was countless times more powerful than a kitchen knife. Ning Cheng's tone turned even more indifferent. "Since you have already left, then why did you take away my ring?" Ning Cheng pointed to a vague shadow in front of them and spoke, "There should be a patch of populous poplar there. If we go there to rest, then we might be able to support ourselves tomorrow. Maybe when we reach there, there would be a pond." After seeing their dodging movements, Ning Cheng was sure that these two women were the same as him, without any martial skills. They were just relying on their strong eyesight to avoid him. "Are you saying that Su Yingde wants to harm me?" Ning Cheng's tone was somewhat indifferent. Ning Cheng knew why Yin Kongchan was so nervous, as he smiled and spoke, "If we go forward, then we will definitely be able to find that tribe. If you want to go, then I will not send you off, but I will not go with you." Ning Cheng knew what Yin Kongchan wanted to say, as he nodded and spoke, "You can speak. I have a reason to go. If I do not go, then Su Yingde will definitely kill me. I cannot guard against her all the time, as such I can only leave you." Yin Kongchan's tone was getting hoarser and hoarser. "Do not ask me why, because Su Yingde had asked me to take you away several times, but I refused." Chapter 311. At this time the sky was already completely bright. Ning Cheng saw a piece of coarse porcelain that had been smashed to pieces on the ground, as well as the bright red stains around it. He immediately understood in his heart what had happened. After the things in his hands fell to the ground, Su Yingde also fell down. Ning Cheng quickly stepped forward and held her in his arms. At this time, not only was Su Yingde's complexion pale, even her lips were pale. The scars on her wrists that had yet to form scabs already indicated where the blood in the cracked and rough porcelain bowl had come from. She fainted, but will wake up in a while. Yin Kongchan looked at Su Yingde in Ning Cheng's arms and spoke. Saying that, she sighed again, "Su Yingde really likes you, it's just that she does not understand you. If it were me, I wouldn't do this. Because I'm sure you won't drink it." Su Yingde had just woken up. When she heard Yin Kongchan's words, there was even some fear in her eyes as she spoke. "Ning Cheng, I don't think I can go back. I heard you say that those people wanted to drink my blood, and I saw a porcelain bowl inside, so. Ning Cheng also gave out a sigh. He knew that Su Yingde was panicking because she had heard Yin Kongchan say that she did not understand him. Don't do such a thing in the future. I may not have a future. Su Yingde's eyes dimmed, as her voice became a bit weak. This time I want to help you, not because I want to fall in love with you. Believe me, those things in the past, for me, are already very far away. Before, you asked me. Ning Cheng stopped Su Yingde from speaking, as he took out a pill and put it in Su Yingde's mouth and spoke, you don't have to swallow it, just suck it. Su Yingde did not know how Ning Cheng came to possess such a pill. As she subconsciously sucked on it, a mouthful of clear and sweet water instantly moistened her throat. She looked at Ning Cheng in shock, and subconsciously sucked a few times. No one could describe what she was experiencing at this moment. She was a person with smoke all over her body, and then she was given a bowl of blood and then had to drink water. There was nothing that could compare to the taste of clear water at this moment. Ning Cheng, on seeing Yin Kongchan staring at him in shock, took out a fresh water pill and handed it to Yin Kongchan and spoke, you can also suck it. After that, he also took out a water pill and sucked a big mouthful of it. The clear and sweet water flowing down his throat was simply the best enjoyment in the world. Water was indeed the best thing. Yin Kongchan sucked a mouthful of it, before looking at Ning Cheng in disbelief. However, she simply did not have the time to speak, as she consumed the fresh water pill that contained a large bowl of water. With a large bowl of water to moisten her, Yin Kongchan's pale complexion immediately turned rosy. Not waiting for Yin Kongchan to speak, Ning Cheng once again took out a pill and handed it over, swallow it. I already have enough, no need to waste it. Yin Kongchan only managed to calm down the shock in her heart after a while. She really could not figure out how Ning Cheng could bring out the fresh water pill. This is not a fresh water pill, this is a fasting pill, one can last for 3 days. Can you use your spiritual consciousness? Yin Kongchan asked in amazement. Ning Cheng shook his head and said, you can't use it, I put it in my pocket, you can eat it first. Saying that, Ning Cheng took out a fresh water pill and put it into the mouth of Su Yingde, who had an equally shocked expression on her face. You've lost a lot of blood, suck another fresh water pill, and then eat the fasting pill. After a few dozen breaths, Su Yingde was finally able to sit down by herself, while the 3 people remained completely silent. She and Yin Kongchan simply could not figure out why, in such a desperate situation, Ning Cheng would still have a fresh water pill, something that he could only dream about. The healing pills that you gave me before, and the healing pills that you gave to Yin Kongchan, were they also taken out from your pocket? Su Yingde finally asked the question that she had been puzzled about. Although Ning Cheng had lost his ring, but he unexpectedly still had some pills. If Su Yingde had not asked about it, Ning Cheng really would not have thought about this detail. Now that Su Yingde asked about it, he finally understood. He had clearly said that he had lost his ring, but had still taken out some pills. If this was not arousing suspicion, then what was it? Now that Su Yingde asked about it, he nodded and spoke, yes, I am used to keeping some simple pills in my pocket, just in case something like this happens. I did not think that this kind of thing would really happen. Fortunately, I had some spare fresh water pills and fasting pills in my pocket. Your dagger was also tied to your calf for this reason? Su Yingde asked again. Yes, I often did not have enough to eat when I was a child, so my sense of crisis was a bit stronger. Ning Cheng spoke with a slightly embarrassed tone, directly ignoring old Rui's words. Yin Kongchan, who had been staring at Ning Cheng, slowly gave out a sigh and spoke, Ning Cheng, sometimes I really cannot see where your bottom line is. In the Hidden Mist Cemetery, only you can avoid the Yin spirits. Although we had encountered many Yin spirits in the Yin spirit trough, you were able to take us out of here. When we had no clue at all, not only did you find the location of the geocentric 9 Yin essence, but you were also able to break through the rank 7 natural array formation. When you went to collect the geocentric 9 Yin essence, I clearly saw a trace of white frost wrapping around your heel, but I found that you could still get rid of it. Sometimes I think, when you went to collect the underworld soul flower, even if Su Yingde did not eat the burning life pill to help you, would you still have a way to escape? Moreover, the geocentric 9 essence that you obtained. When you fell, even if I did not pick you up, would you still be safe and sound? Ning Cheng was slightly surprised, he really had not thought about it that much. When he had picked the underworld soul flower, if Su Yingde had not taken action, then he really did have a way. As for whether he would have been able to use it or not, he did not know. As for being frozen by the cold poison from the summit, he really did not have a good way. The moment he was caught by Yin Kongchan, even if he wanted to enter the miniature world, he would not be able to do so. Therefore, at that time, Yin Kongchan had really helped him. As Yin Kongchan spoke, Su Yingde kept looking at Ning Cheng. In addition to a soft clarity in her eyes, there was nothing else. Ning Cheng, thank you for saving me once again, but I can't return the ring to you, I'm sorry. This was the first time that Ning Cheng and Yin Kongchan had ever met, that Yin Kongchan had apologized for the first time. Su Yingde frowned, as she stared at Yin Kongchan and spoke, Yin Kongchan, although I know that you took away Ning Cheng's ring, but I also know that after your soul recovers, you will definitely return it to Ning Cheng. Moreover, you have already sworn a poison oath. Yin Kongchan spoke with a gloomy expression in her eyes. I did not open the ring, because my level of restrictions was too low, while the restrictions on the ring were too high. Under my carelessness, I ended up destroying the ring, and because of this, the things inside completely disappeared. When Su Yingde heard Yin Kongchan's words, she once again trembled. She did not even dare to look at Ning Cheng, as she spoke in a panic. I should not have let her take away the ring, but I really did not discuss it with her. She took away the ring, and even swore that I knew about it. It was all done by herself after I acquiesced to her sneak attack. I thought that even if you did not have the ring, I would still be able to help you. If I had known that Yin Kongchan would destroy your ring, I would not have let her take it away even if I died. At that time, I only wanted to be with you, I did not want anyone else. Yin Kongchan also lowered her head, as she spoke in a sad tone. We really did not discuss it, but I understood Su Yingde's thoughts, and she also knew my thoughts. Moreover, I knew that before I returned the ring, she would definitely not make a move against you, as such I left with a peace of mind. If I knew that I would destroy the ring, I would definitely not have done it. Ning Cheng stood up, and stopped the two people from continuing. This matter ends here. Even if I did not lose the ring, I would not be able to open it for now. I'm going to sleep. After I rest up, we will find a way to get out. Ning Cheng really does not want to have anything to do with Su Yingde and Yin Kongchan. As long as he gets out, he will definitely not have any intersection with the two of them again. Su Yingde and Yin Kongchan could see that Ning Cheng was not very fond of them, but Yin Kongchan actually stood up and retreated. Su Yingde's eyes were somewhat gloomy. She only hesitated for a short time, before following Yin Kongchan out. After the two of them retreated, Ning Cheng immediately chose a flat place, and fell asleep. If he wanted to get out of this desert, he would not be able to just eat. He had to conserve his energy. Only when he had sufficient physical strength, would he have a chance. The exhausted Ning Cheng fell down, and immediately fell into a deep sleep. Even he himself did not know that he could sleep this much. When he dreamt of Tian Mu Wan again, he suddenly woke up, and sat up at the same time. When he was cultivating in the Yixing mainland, he had forced himself to forget this name. In fact, he rarely thought of this name. But now that he had lost all of his cultivation, he unexpectedly saw this woman in his dream. Did you have a nightmare? Yin Kongchan's voice sounded in Ning Cheng's ears. Hey, is it dark again? Ning Cheng felt the moonlight shining through the cracks in the surrounding rock walls, as he subconsciously spoke out. Then he immediately thought of something. Why was Yin Kongchan here? Why are you here? Didn't I say that I was going to sleep? Ning Cheng had just dreamt of a name that he did not want to remember, as such his tone was somewhat uncomfortable. Yin Kongchan did not care about Ning Cheng's attitude, and still spoke the same as before. You slept from morning till night, I know. Ning Cheng waved his hand to interrupt Yin Kongchan's words, and then called out, Su Yingde, you also come in. After Su Yingde came in, Ning Qing took out 40 pills, and gave 20 to each of them and spoke, "Now each of you will have 10 fresh water pills and 10 fasting pills. I do not have many pills. If I run out of pills, and we still cannot get out of this desert, then we deserve to die early and reincarnate early." At this time, Yin Kongchan and Su Yingde were able to see that Ning Qing had placed the pills on his belt. Ning Qing also saw Su Yingde come in, only then did he realize that the two women had been assigned to stand guard. It seems that he had misunderstood Yin Kongchan. The two of them only took a fresh water pill, and did not take out any other pills. Ning Qing understood at a glance that these two women were very flirtatious, and were both wearing women's robes. As such, they did not have any pockets to hold the pills. After thinking about it, he put away the pills and spoke, "Forget it, from now on you can come to me every day to get them." After Yin Kongchan finished sucking the fresh water pill, she spoke, "Su Yingde and I have a matter to discuss with you." Chapter 312. Seeing that Ning Qing did not answer, and just stared at her, Yin Kongchan had to take the initiative to speak up. "The Forsaken Land is not a natural existence, but rather a place that was sealed up by some ancient powerhouses using their supreme magical powers. It is equivalent to an array formation. If we can restore our true essence and spiritual sense, we can get out of here." Ning Qing gave a smile and spoke, "Are you talking nonsense? If you can restore your true essence and divine sense, will you come to me to discuss it?" "We can't, but one person can." "Who?" Ning Qing immediately interrupted Yin Kongchan and asked. "Yan Fenghua." Yin Kongchan replied calmly. Ning Qing frowned. He seemed to have heard of this name before. It seemed to be related to the Heavenly Tao Academy. Even so, what did it have to do with whether or not he could recover his divine sense and true essence? Knowing that Ning Qing was puzzled, Yin Kongchan slowly spoke, "Yan Fenghua is a disciple of the Heavenly Tao Academy, but he obtained the inheritance of an ancient powerhouse, which contained a cultivation method called the Embracing Yang God tactic. This kind of cultivation technique did not require spiritual energy. As long as there was sunlight, it could be cultivated. In the end, one could cultivate a kind of power called the power of all creation. If successfully cultivated, the power of myriad things would be much more powerful than the power of true essence. Moreover, the power of myriad things was a power that was cultivated by creating something from nothing. However, my master told me that the power of all things isn't created out of nothing. Instead, it's a power derived from the Tao." When Ning Qing heard this, a sentence suddenly appeared in his mind: "The Tao begets one, one begets two, two begets three, three begets all things bear yin and embrace yang." As he thought of this sentence, he immediately spoke up, "All things bear yin and embrace yang. Does the embracing yang God tactic come from here?" Yin Kongchan looked at Ning Qing in amazement, and only spoke up after a good while, "Yes, all living things carry yin and embracing yang. The embracing yang God tactic comes from this. So, whether or not you're willing to cultivate, I'm just discussing it with you. Are you saying that you have the embracing yang God tactic?" Ning Qing stared at Yin Kongchan and asked in a sinking voice. Although Yin Kongchan was surprised at how Ning Qing knew about the all living things carrying yin and embracing yang, but she immediately restored her calm and spoke in a calm voice, "I do not have the complete embracing yang God tactic. The Heavenly Tao Academy's Yan Fenghua originally had two lovers. One was my ancestor Sang Yen, and the other was Su Yingde's ancestor Su Binglan. For the sake of fairness, he passed on the embracing yang God tactic to Sang Yen and Su Binglan. However, everyone only passed on a portion of it, not all of it. Because Sang Yen and Su Binglan were like fire and water, Yan Fenghua knew that the two of them would never work together to complete this cultivation technique. Therefore, he was fair on the surface, but in reality, it was equivalent to not imparting anything at all. As for me and Su Yingde, we both happen to know a part of the embracing yang God tactics cultivation method. If you are willing to learn it, we can pass it to you separately, so that you can cultivate it." Yin Kongchan was a descendant of Sang Yen, while Su Yingde was a descendant of Su Binglan. Although Yan Fenghua had calculated that even the descendants of the two would not be able to pass on their cultivation methods to each other. Who would have thought that both of them would meet him at the same time and be trapped in the Forsaken Land? Seeing that Ning Qing still seemed to be lost in thought, Yin Kongchan once again spoke up. The Forsaken Land is in fact equivalent to a restriction, which seals the spiritual consciousness and true essence of the cultivators. But the embracing young god tactic was similar to creating something out of nothing. It was able to draw out a trace of true essence and a trace of spiritual consciousness from nothing, allowing one to open the seal on one's true essence and spiritual consciousness. If that's the case, we might be able to get out, but what? Ning Qing asked in a very straightforward manner. Yin Kongchan hesitated for a moment before speaking. It's just that the embracing yang god tactic carries yin and yang. After successfully cultivating it, the yang qi would be exuberant, and would need to be harmonized with yin qi, otherwise the yang qi would incinerate the body and cause one's death. Ning Qing sneered in his heart. It was not like he had not encountered yang qi incinerating the body. It was just that this cultivation method had side effects, as such he had to be careful. As if seeing the sneer in Ning Cheng's eyes, Yin Kongchan once again took the initiative to speak up. If it was outside, being exuberant with yang qi would not be a big deal. Any dual cultivation building would be able to solve it. It's just that my cultivation method does not allow me to dual cultivate with you, as such I cannot help you. Whether you want to cultivate or not, it's up to you. I'll help you. Suing Day spoke without hesitation. Her tone was firm and without even half a bit of room for negotiation. But when she looked at Ning Qing, her eyes were as gentle as clear water. Ning Qing nodded, as if he did not care about it. He had the mysterious yellow origin and the star river qi, as such even if it was the yang qi incinerating the body, he could still restrain it. Initially, his star river qi had absorbed the yang qi from his body, causing it to show signs of cracking. Although it was somewhat dangerous, but even if it was dangerous, it was still better than staying in this place. Previously, when he was at the bottom of the blood river, he was able to find a way to get out. In this place, as long as his true essence and spiritual consciousness were restored, he would definitely be able to infer a way out. As long as this place was protected by an array formation restriction, it would be fine. Yin Kongchan, on seeing Ning Qing nod, felt slightly relieved in her heart. Suing Day and I will pass on to you the parts that we know. You can sort it out and cultivate by yourself. This kind of cultivation method is related to one's qualifications. For those with strong qualifications, they would be able to cultivate a trace of the power of myriad things in about 3 years. For those with weak qualifications, it might take a bit longer. So long. Ning Qing frowned. He had thought that it would only take a month or 2 at most. He did not think that it would take a few years. How could he stay here for a few years? If we can get out in a shorter time, then it would of course be better, but if we cannot get out, then in the future we would have something to rely on. Yin Kongchan saw Ning Cheng's hesitation. Ning Qing nodded. Good, let's put it this way. You can pass on the embracing young god tactic to me. While I cultivate, we can also look for the edge of the desert. In any case, we have to get out of this desert first. After the 3 people reached an agreement, they seemed to have a tacit understanding with each other. Under normal circumstances, the 3 people would look for a place to rest during the day, while Ning Qing would cultivate the embracing young god tactic, while Su Yingday and Yin Kongchan would take turns to stand guard, while the 3 people would then hurry on with their journey at night. In just a blink of an eye, more than a month had passed, but the 3 people were still walking in the endless desert. Ning Qing had cultivated for more than a month, but was not able to cultivate even half a trace of the power of myriad things. The aura of the mysterious yellow origin was not moving, showing that his qualifications were not good at all. Walking in the desert for more than a month, although Ning Qing felt uncomfortable, but he did not feel anything, but Yin Kongchan and Su Yingday felt as if they were better off dead than alive. Although the 2 women had been very deliberately maintaining their image, they were still dirty like 2 street beggars. These days, Ning Qing was not in the mood to cultivate. The fresh water pills on him were getting less and less. Even if the 3 of them were to use them sparingly, they would only be able to support them for half a month at most. Su Yingde and Yin Kongchan also felt Ning Cheng's worries. Although the two of them were anxious, there was nothing they could do. When the sun went down, the three people, as usual, left the station, ready to hurry on with their journey. Water. Su Yingde's scream instantly pierced through the empty and lonely desert night. Ning Cheng and Yin Kongchan also saw the place where Su Yingde was pointing. A huge lake appeared in front of the three people. There were even some trees around the lake. Because of the breeze, there were even some ripples on the surface of the lake. It's an oasis. Yin Kongchan's voice trembled, encountering an oasis with a lake. For the three of them, what kind of happiness would it bring? The three people stopped, but did not rush over, because the three of them knew that this kind of place might just be a mirage. Maybe if they rushed to the front, they would find that it was all in vain. Let's go and have a look. Ning Cheng saw Su Yingde and Yin Kongchan looking at him, and immediately spoke up. After looking at it for a long time, he felt that it did not look like a mirage, or that there really was an oasis here. The three people excitedly sped up their pace, and in just the time it took for half an incense stick to burn, they arrived at the lake with the ripples flowing on it. When the three people saw a huge real lake appear in front of them, they were so happy that even their breathing became somewhat sluggish. There were rows of poplar trees on the lakeside, as well as some unknown weeds. There were even one or two fishes occasionally jumping out of the lake, indicating that this was a real lake, and not a mirage. Yin Kongchan and Su Yingde were sluggish for a moment, before they could no longer hold back the excitement in their hearts, and rushed towards the lake. Ning Cheng gave out a slight sigh. He was equally excited in his heart. After walking in the desert for more than a month, even if he had the fasting pill and the fresh water pill, this kind of life was simply too torturous. Now that he saw a real lake, how could he not be excited? However, Ning Cheng soon felt that something was wrong. After Su Yingde rushed into the lake, she only flashed a few times, before disappearing without a trace, while Yin Kongchan was just like a frightened bird rushing back to the shore. Chapter 313. Ning Cheng did not have time to think about it, as he directly jumped into the lake. He did not even have the time to ask Yin Kongchan the reason. What he feared was that Su Yingde did not know how to swim, and that the lake was very deep. From the time Su Yingde disappeared from the lake to Ning Cheng jumping into it, it was only a breath or two. Yin Kongchan looked at Ning Cheng jumping into the lake, and only reacted after a long while. Ning Cheng unexpectedly did not ask her the specific reason. She sighed. If it were her, even if she wanted to go down to save someone, she would first ask what was going on. She knew that Ning Cheng was not a good person, but she also understood why Ning Cheng was so eager to save Su Yingde. It should be that Su Yingde had finally influenced him, but he had not noticed it yet. The burning life pill burned her lifespan to save Ning Cheng, before cutting her wrists to feed Ning Cheng, as well as the words "I'll help you." Some things in the eyes of others were absurd, but for people like Ning Cheng, it was just too appropriate. What she had said to Ning Cheng before was completely wrong. Before she had said that Su Yingde had cut her wrists to save Ning Cheng, it was because she did not understand Ning Cheng. Now it seems that Su Yingde did not understand Ning Cheng, but rather she understood Ning Cheng too well. It was only because she and Su Yingde stood at a different point, as such the way they looked at the problem was also different. This seemingly stupid thing, but it was leaving more and more marks in Ning Cheng's heart. Perhaps even Ning Cheng himself was not aware of it. Yin Kongchan suddenly thought, if she had fallen into the lake a moment ago, would Ning Cheng not ask anything, and immediately jump in to save her? Or would he first ask clearly, and then think of a way to save her? Or would he not save her at all? Ning Cheng had just jumped into the water, when he immediately understood what was going on. A ribbon-like thing stretched out and wrapped around his leg. Not waiting for him to react, another ribbon-like thing wrapped around his leg. Ning Cheng did not hesitate to pull out the tri-edged thorn from his calf, and directly cut off the ribbon that wrapped around his leg. This thing that wrapped around Ning Cheng seemed to know that it was afraid of pain, as after Ning Cheng cut off one of the ribbons, the rest immediately retracted. Knowing that it was these seaweeds that were similar to kelp, Ning Cheng felt relieved in his heart. His speed rapidly increased, and soon he arrived at the bottom of the lake. at the same time he caught Su Yingde, who had been dragged into the water by the algae. Su Yingde was clumsily grabbing in all directions. At this time she suddenly caught Ning Cheng's hand, and immediately grabbed it back. Ning Cheng was startled in his heart. Once he was caught by Su Yingde, he would not be able to help Su Yingde cut off the seaweed on her body, even he himself would be in danger. Just when Ning Cheng wanted to avoid Su Yingde seemed to have felt that it was Ning Cheng, as she unexpectedly let go of her hand. Ning Cheng's heart loosened up a bit, as he waved the three-edged thorn in his hands a few times. The seaweed wrapping around Su Yingde's body immediately retreated, and soon Su Yingde's body was completely empty. Ning Cheng grabbed Su Yingde, and quickly brought her to the surface of the lake. Yin Kongchan, who was extremely nervous at the lakeside, on seeing Ning Cheng come up with Su Yingde, gave a sigh of relief and quickly came forward to help. After Su Yingde came ashore, she quickly stood to the side, and spat out a few mouthfuls of water, before she softly looked at Ning Cheng and said, "Thank you. We are just helping each other, you also helped me before." Ning Cheng's words came to an abrupt end. Before, because he was busy saving people, he did not care about it. At this time, Su Yingde's clothes were sticking to her body, and under the bright moonlight, her curves were clearly contrasted, which made Ning Cheng, who had been cultivating the embracing young god tactic, feel his mouth dry and his tongue coarse. He subconsciously glanced at Yin Kongchan, who looked exactly the same as Su Yingde. When Yin Kongchan saw Ning Cheng's gaze, she was not even half a shred of shyness. She just looked at Su Yingde and spoke, "You said that you would help him, you can go ahead and do it, I will pretend that I did not see anything." Su Yingde was still looking at Ning Cheng with her clear eyes, but the gentleness in her eyes was almost enough to melt people. It was obvious that she did not mind what Yin Kongchan had said a moment ago. Ning Cheng coughed, as he picked up the half-piece of seaweed that he had just brought out, and changed the topic. "I do not know what this thing is, but it is able to take the initiative to entangle people." Yin Kongchan and Su Yingde both shook their heads. The two of them did not know anything about this kind of seaweed. "I want to go down and have a look, I feel that this kind of seaweed seems to have some uses," Ning Cheng said as he raised the half-piece of seaweed in his hands. Hearing that Ning Cheng still wanted to go down, Su Yingde hurriedly spoke up, "You don't have to go down, I feel that this lake is somewhat strange." Yin Kongchan also spoke up, "Why don't we wait until tomorrow to have a look, there are indeed a lot of strange things happening in the night." Ning Cheng also felt that even if they wanted to go down and have a look, they did not need to go down right now. After experiencing this incident, Yin Kongchan and Su Yingde, the two of them, did not dare to rush into the lake, and just went to the lakeside to wash up. After the three of them finished washing up, Ning Cheng used his tri-edged thorn to cut down some poplar branches, and then set up a temporary tent. The tent was not small, even if the three of them were to rest, it would still leave a large space. Early the next morning, Ning Cheng was awakened by a loud noise. He opened his eyes, but found that Su Yingde and Yin Kongchan who were beside him had also woken up at the same time. The tent that Ning Cheng had set up was not small, as such the three of them did not need to squeeze together to sleep. Moreover, Ning Cheng also knew that Su Yingde and Yin Kongchan would take turns to stand guard, so how could they fall asleep? Moreover, they even dared to squeeze next to him to sleep. "There are ghosts in this lake, we do not dare to stay outside." Yin Kongchan saw Ning Cheng looking at them in doubt, and quickly spoke up. "Let's talk about this later, there is a lot of noise outside, it seems like a lot of people have arrived, let's go out and have a look," Ning Cheng said as he walked out of the tent. Sure enough, there were a lot of people outside, a total of 7 men and women. In addition to that, there were also 2 beast carriages. These people were completely different from the 2 men in the desert who were dehydrated. Apart from some sand and dust on their bodies, each and every one of them was full of energy, and looked no different from ordinary people. At this time, these 7 people were surrounding Ning Cheng's tent, and seemed to be waiting for the Ning Cheng trio to come out. They were headed by a dark-skinned man with small eyes. At first glance one could tell that he was a very astute person. When he saw Ning Cheng coming out of the tent with Yin Kongchan and Su Yingde, he seemed to be somewhat surprised. When he saw Su Yingde and Yin Kongchan again, his eyes even revealed a shocked expression. Yin Kongchan and Su Yingde, because they had just taken a bath, had also washed their clothes, and once again restored their original beauty. When Ningqing saw these people, he immediately stopped. He was ready to pull out the tri-edged thorn at any time, but the other party did not act as Ningqing thought. The small-eyed man, who was the leader of the group, politely asked, "Are the few of you also here to look for aquatic essence tendons?" Aquatic essence tendons? Ningqing did not know anything about aquatic essence tendons, as such he could only speak up, "We are not looking for aquatic essence tendons, but because we mistakenly entered the desert, we accidentally lost our way. Can I ask how long it will take to get out of here?" Hearing that Ningqing trio were not looking for aquatic essence tendons, the small-eyed man was slightly disappointed, but still spoke with enthusiasm. "From here, it will take us half a month. At that time the two of you can follow our beast carriage to the Yaluan city." "Many thanks, my name is Ningqing, and these two are my companions, Yin Kongchan and Su Yingde. I have not yet asked this friend for his name." Ningqing, on hearing that he could follow these people out of the desert, immediately cupped his fists in gratitude. "My name is Maong." This time everyone came together to collect aquatic essence tendons. Maong politely replied to Ningqing's words, while simultaneously introducing the people around him to Ningqing one by one. Ningqing saw one of the young men holding a piece of the same kind of seaweed that he had brought with him yesterday, and asked Maong in a puzzled manner, "Elder brother Ma, is the aquatic essence tendons that you are talking about a kind of seaweed that grows in this lake?" Maong quickly spoke up, "Yes, it is this kind of seaweed. Because this kind of thing is far from the Yaluan city, and is also in the middle of the desert, it is extremely difficult to obtain, as such its value is extremely high." "What is its value?" Ningqing also felt that this kind of seaweed was not ordinary. Maong solemnly spoke, "Aquatic essence tendons contain a kind of heaven and earth essence qi. In the space that we live in, things that contain heaven and earth essence qi are extremely rare, and aquatic essence tendons are one of the most valuable of them all. Because of this, aquatic essence tendons contain this kind of heaven and earth essence qi. As such, we can extract the essence qi from the aquatic essence tendons and make it into an aquatic essence pill, which can be used by some martial artists for cultivation. Because of this, the value of aquatic essence tendons is very high. Even a small piece of it can be sold for a silver coin." Ningqing couldn't help but think that it was no wonder, when he cut off the aquatic essence tendons, he could feel its value. It turned out that this thing also contained essence qi, which was similar to a qi-gathering stone. "There are a lot of aquatic essence tendons down here. Why do you say that it is difficult to obtain?" Ningqing thought back to last night when he went into the lake. It was only a short time, but he was already entangled by this kind of aquatic essence tendons. It showed that this lake was filled with them. Maong sighed and spoke, "Elder brother Ning, you do not know, but the aquatic essence tendons are exceptionally tough. Moreover, if you are not careful and are entangled by them, then it would only lead to a situation of death. Every time we come here, we have to go through untold hardships in order to obtain just a little bit." Exceptionally tough. Ningqing thought back to his tri-edged thorn that could easily cut off a strand of aquatic essence tendons, so how could he say that it was exceptionally tough? He quickly reacted. The tools that these people were carrying on their backs were all made of ordinary iron. It was simply the worst kind of weapons. Although his tri-edged thorn was trash, it was still something that he had refined using good materials. It was obviously not something that these people's weapons could compare to. Moreover, this lake is very dangerous to stay here at night. This lake is called the White-Robed Ghost Lake. It is very easy to lose your soul here at night, and turn into a walking corpse. Therefore, we do not dare to stay here at night, but the three of you were able to stay here for the whole night. It is really lucky." Maong continued to explain. Ningqing suddenly remembered what Yin Kongchan had said before, and thought in his heart, was there really a ghost in this lake? But since he went down yesterday, until now, why did nothing happen to him? Thinking till here, Ningqing once again spoke, "Elder brother Ma, what do you think about this? I will go and get the aquatic essence tendons, and we can split the money we earn in half." Chapter 314. In Kong-chan gave a meaningful glance at Su Yingde. Su Yingde's character seemed to have changed overnight. At this time, Ning Cheng's thoughts were a lot more than before. He had never been to the Yaluan city, so who knew what kind of city it was? From the attitude of Ma Ong and the others, it seemed that the Yaluan city was still an orderly place. But no matter how orderly it was always a good thing to know one or two acquaintances. After changing to another oxygen bag, Ning Cheng continued to dive into the lake. After a few days on the road, Ning Cheng also chatted with a few people and learned about the Yaluan city. "Can I not go?" Su Yingde timidly said. On the 10th day, after the beast carriage left the desert, its speed became even faster. On the 13th day, the majestic brown walls of the Yaluan city appeared in Ning Cheng's line of sight. Listening to Ning Cheng's words, not only Ma Ong, but the rest of the people also suddenly understood. No wonder Ning Cheng's aquatic essence tendons were so fast, moreover he could even pull them out from the roots. It turned out that the other party was also a martial artist, and even had a skill called the tendon dislocation hand. After a good while, Ma Ong swallowed a mouthful of saliva and spoke, "Elder brother Ning, if you can fill up a cart full of aquatic essence tendons, then I am willing to help the three of you with the formalities for civilian residency in the Yaluan city, while also giving you a small courtyard. You don't have to worry about it, otherwise it would not be good for you to go to the Yaluan city." Ning Cheng spoke as he was about to enter the lake. At the bottom of the lake, there was a large area where the aquatic essence tendons grew, but Ning Cheng had already cut off half of it, mainly because Ning Cheng's triangular thorns were too sharp. Ma Ong spoke in a stern tone, "If you want me to help you, then it is not a problem at all. Although the procedures for living in the Yaluan city are somewhat troublesome, but with the identity of a civilian, I can still help elder brother Ning. But brother Ning, you have to tell me, how many aquatic essence tendons can you obtain? As for the dangers of going down to get the aquatic essence tendons, I won't say anything about it, I believe that you already know about it. If the ring was damaged, even the best item would turn into dust. This kind of spatial disorder wasn't something ordinary items could block." Ma Ong and the others who were nervously waiting for Ning Cheng at the lakeside did not have to wait for long, when they saw Ning Cheng rushing out of the lake while holding a large bundle of aquatic essence tendons. In just over half a day, Ning Cheng had already gathered 10 bundles of aquatic essence tendons. Feeling that it was almost enough to fill the entire cart, Ning Cheng decided to get another bundle, and then stopped. Some of the people who did not believe in Ning Cheng's words, now looked at Ning Cheng in shock. His eyes were filled with admiration. Those who were capable would be respected no matter where they were. Ning Cheng reached out and touched it, and found that there were all kinds of bones under his hand. From this, it could be seen that for a long time, he did not know how many people had died at the bottom of this lake. Not only that, but in the Yaluan city, everything had to be spent, even water had to be bought with money. Ning Cheng was also used to spending money on water. When he was on Earth, he had to spend money on water. So that's how it is, we already have enough aquatic essence tendons. With so many aquatic essence tendons, even if we worked for many years, we wouldn't be able to collect them all. Elder brother Ning, you truly have a good skill. Ma Ong did not care about Ning Cheng's iron spear, but was looking at the pile of aquatic essence tendons in excitement. In just a short time, Ning Cheng once again arrived at the bottom of the lake. He found that he could vaguely see some scenery at the bottom of the lake. Although it was blurry, he could clearly see that the bottom of the lake was filled with these long strips of algae. "Brother Ning, what is this?" Ma Ong did not ask why Ning Cheng did not manage to obtain the aquatic essence tendons this time, but rather looked at the rusty long spear in Ning Cheng's hands and asked. Ning Cheng's heart suddenly started pounding. If he could obtain a long spear that could not even be destroyed by the spatial ring, then wouldn't it be a huge stroke of luck? At this time, not to mention Ma Ong, even the rest of the people were looking at Ning Cheng in a daze. How was this possible? Obtaining the aquatic essence tendons in the white-robed ghost lake, if one was not careful, then the aquatic essence tendons would strangle them to death, and there would be no way to save them. Every time someone came to obtain the aquatic essence tendons, they would always lose one or two. Under the wave of Ning Cheng's triedged thorns, these algae were easily cut down like wheat. In just a short time, he had already cut down a large bundle. If the spatial ring was damaged, but this thing was not damaged by the power of space, then it showed that this thing was simply too good. It was definitely a good thing among good things. That's right, I will go down alone. But I am not from the Yaluan city, so now I am going to settle down in the Yaluan city. I am not familiar with this place, so I will need elder brother Ma's help. Ning Cheng spoke with a smile. A heavy and solid feeling welled up in his heart, along with a bit of joy. Ning Cheng touched the iron rod with his hand, and when he touched the end, he unexpectedly found that it was a long spear. Could it be that a powerhouse died in this place, and ended up losing their magical weapon here? Most likely it was related to the strict laws of the Yaluan city, as the people Ning Cheng met were very friendly. Everyone walked along the way, and even chatted with each other very well. But the magical weapon was placed in his ring, so how could he take it out in this kind of place? From Ma Ang's mouth, Ning Cheng also came to know that the person with the most power in the Yaluan city was the city master. At the same time, he absolutely could not offend the people from the city master's mansion. Moreover, living in the Yaluan city, there was also a hierarchy. If an aristocrat committed a crime, then they could use gold coins and other things to pay for it. But if a civilian committed a crime, then there was no other way. In order to live in the Yaluan city, Ning Cheng even specifically consulted Ma Ang on various legal details. Every time Ning Cheng came up, he would always bring a bundle of aquatic essence tendons, but this time Ning Cheng unexpectedly just grabbed a rusty iron rod, causing the people at the lakeside to feel very strange. Seeing Ning Cheng come down into the lake, Su Yingde and Yin Kongchan both nervously paid attention to the lake. At the same time, the two of them also carefully paid attention to the people who suddenly came here to pick up the aquatic essence tendons. Thieves cut off their hands, robbers were directly beheaded, and adulterers were castrated. Seeing that the aquatic essence tendons were far away from Ning Cheng simply tied the triedged thorn to his calf once again. Using both of his hands, he once again pulled out the iron rod, and this time he finally managed to pull it out. Ning Cheng gave a sigh and spoke, "Alas, the aquatic essence tendons at the bottom of the lake are almost all gone by me. I looked for a long time, but found that there were only a few strands left, so after thinking about it, I decided to forget about it. I picked up this iron spear at the bottom of the lake. It should have been thrown down by the people who fished for the aquatic essence tendons. I just happened to be lacking a weapon, so I conveniently picked it up." Fortunately, these people were completely different from the two people they had met before. Not only were they polite, but they were also very enthusiastic. Soon the two of them became familiar with two of the women, and even borrowed a set of clothes from each of them. Suppressing the excitement and joy in his heart, Ning Cheng once again touched the surroundings. When he was sure that there was nothing else in the vicinity other than the long spear, he grabbed the long spear and quickly rushed out of the lake. As for harvesting the aquatic essence tendons again, he did not have even half a shred of interest in it. Ma Ang had also apparently guessed that the half of the aquatic essence tendons at the edge of the lake was lost by Ning Cheng, so he was sure that Ning Cheng had already gone into the lake. Since Ning Cheng had already gone into the lake, and still dared to say such words, it showed that Ning Cheng definitely had a few tricks up his sleeves. But this time, Ning Cheng's triedged thorn was suddenly blocked. His triedged thorn had cut into something hard, which even caused his hand to tremble a bit. "Good, it's a deal." Ning Cheng finished, then turned to Yin Kongchan and Su Yingde and spoke with a smile, "I'm going to get the aquatic essence tendons, you can wait for me outside." Only Su Yingde and Yin Kongchan knew that Ning Cheng was just talking nonsense. The reason why Ning Cheng was able to get these aquatic essence tendons was because he had a dagger. However, at this time, they were also paying attention to the rusty long spear in Ning Cheng's hands. The spear was about 12 feet long, but whether it was the spear shaft or the spear head, both of them were mottled and looked like they had rusted. Ma Ang, who was the leader, in order to gain a favorable impression from Ning Cheng, placed 10 bundles of aquatic essence tendons on top of the 2 beast carriages. Yin Kongchan, Su Yingde, and the other 2 women sat in one of the beast carriages, while Ning Cheng and the other 3 sat in the other beast carriage. There were also 2 people who were responsible for driving the carriages. Ning Cheng secretly thought in his heart, in the Yaluan city, there really was a need to go through formalities, moreover there was also the issue of identity, these things could be asked later. Ning Cheng was able to obtain so many aquatic essence tendons at once, it could be said that everyone here had made a fortune, moreover they did not have to take any risks at all. Because of this, Ning Cheng received the respect of all the people here. Su Yingde and Yin Kongchan were not people without vision, so when they saw the long spear in Ning Cheng's hands, they immediately knew that it was definitely not an ordinary long spear, moreover the rust on the long spear was also not the rust on the long spear. Maong quickly took out a leather bag and placed it in front of Ning Cheng and spoke, after you go into the lake, you can tie this leather bag to your back, and then put a tube in your mouth from the leather bag. When you want to breathe in, you can take a deep breath, this will ensure that you can stay in the lake for a longer time. Ning Cheng spoke in a seemingly unintentional manner, actually, I am also half a martial artist. I used to cultivate a martial art, called the separating tendons and dislocating bones hand. Using this kind of thing to pull out the aquatic essence tendons turned out to be very handy, even I did not think of it. As soon as Ning Cheng entered the lake, a black shadow once again stretched out, but when these black shadows met Ning Cheng's triangular thorn, they took the initiative to retreat. Ning Cheng pointed to the 2 beast carriages and spoke, I can get my hands on enough aquatic essence tendons to fill up one of the 2 beast carriages. As Ning Cheng thought of this, he suddenly thought of something. In the event that a long time passed, the restrictions on the ring would break, causing the ring to be damaged, would that thing come out? Ning Cheng quickly grabbed the hard thing that was blocking the triangular thorn, it was just like an iron rod, with a cold feeling in his hand, it made Ning Cheng feel that this thing was not simple. He tried to pull it, but the iron rod only shook a bit, but he did not manage to pull it up. Yaluan City turned out to be a very law-abiding city, but the severity of the laws, even Ning Cheng would be left speechless. This thing is good. Ning Cheng smiled, this was simply a simple oxygen tank. Maong looked at Ning Cheng with his mouth wide open in disbelief, and spoke up after a good while, did you say that you went down alone to get your hands on the aquatic essence tendons? So much. Maong and the others could not believe what they saw in Ning Cheng's hands was a large bundle of aquatic essence tendons. Every time they came here, they would only be able to obtain a third of this much. Moreover, it was only the upper part of the aquatic essence tendons, they simply could not even see the rhizome. Ning Cheng was able to get so much at once, and even uprooted them. Although Ning Cheng had completely lost his cultivation, but he had seen too many things, as such these skeletons did not have any effect on him. Chapter 3:15. The Yaluan city looked more like the ancient city walls that Ning Cheng had seen in the movies. Although the city walls were mottled with time and had turned dark brown, but one could still vaguely see that this majestic city wall was once made of huge bluestones. The city gate was very wide, with a total of 3 huge doorways. The giant door in the middle was about 3 feet wide, while the doorways on both sides were nearly 2 feet wide. Just as they were about to enter the city, Maong brought Ning Cheng out of the beast carriage. Yin Kongchan and Su Yingde, who had changed into a set of ordinary clothes, also got out of the beast carriage and stood beside Ning Cheng. Maong pointed to the largest gate in the middle and spoke, this gate is the gate that the city master uses to enter and exit the city. The army also enters from here. Ordinary people cannot enter and exit from this gate, they can only enter and exit from the 2 side doors. Ning Cheng couldn't help but think that compared to the real true cultivation continent, this kind of place was really more cumbersome. In a true cultivation continent, there was generally only one gate, and anyone could enter and exit from it. Not waiting for Ning Cheng to ask, a burst of hoofbeats arrived, followed by a luxurious motorcade rushing out from the central gate. Maong quickly pulled Ning Cheng and spoke, elder brother Ning, quickly stand to the side, this is the city master's most favorite princess man going out, you must not bump into her. Ning Qing quickly took a few steps back, while at the same time glancing at her. He was surprised to find that this princess man unexpectedly had a blue crystal dot on her forehead. He had only glanced at this bright spot, but he already felt a little dizzy. Ning Qing quickly took back his gaze, and lowered his head and stood to the side. The hurried hoofbeats suddenly lightened, and then stopped in front of Ning Qing. Ning Cheng's heart tightened, he felt that he should not have looked up at this princess man. However, he was also thinking in his heart, it was just a glance, it should not be a problem, right? Your courage is not small, to even dare to look up at me. Princess man's somewhat cold voice sounded out in front of Ning Cheng. When Ma Ong heard this voice, his heart suddenly sank. He found that he had forgotten to tell Ning Cheng an important thing, and that was to never peek at anyone in the city master's mansion. Ning Cheng did not have the time to defend himself, when he heard the princess speak in an indifferent voice, drag this person out and beat him to death, then dig out his eyes. Ning Cheng immediately became furious, just a glance, this woman unexpectedly turned out to be so vicious. Not only did they want to beat him to death, they even wanted to dig out his eyes. Princess, please don't, we have just arrived at the Yaluan city, there are many rules that we do not understand. I ask the princess to forgive him this time, this little woman is willing to pray for the princess day and night. Su Yingde was the first to rush up and plead with a bow. When Ma Ong saw this scene, he sighed even more. Why didn't he hurry up and kneel down to beg for mercy? This was the rhythm before he died. Of course, he didn't know that Su Yingde, as a disciple of a top-ranked academy, would kneel to someone like Princess Man. It was already a great honor for her to be able to call herself a little girl and call the other party princess. Hey, you dare to plead? Princess Man, on seeing Su Yingde actually dare to come forward and plead for leniency, couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. Then, she said, raise your head. Su Yingde looked up at Princess Man with eyes filled with nervousness. That kind of delicate and pitiful look, coupled with her beautiful appearance, would cause anyone who saw her to feel a kind of resonance in their heart. Princess Man was also not an exception. The Yaluan city was filled with beautiful women, and she herself was also a very beautiful woman. However, she had never seen a woman as beautiful as Su Yingde. Are you willing to come with me? After a good while, Princess Man finally spoke up. Unexpectedly she did not blame Su Yingde for not kneeling down. Su Yingde quickly bowed again and spoke, this little girl is married to her husband, and is willing to live and die with him. I cannot serve the princess, I ask the princess to forgive me. Contrary to everyone's expectations, Princess Man unexpectedly nodded and spoke, yes, since there is a pitiful woman like you pleading for mercy, then I will spare his little life and reward him with 3 blades and 6 holes. Ding! A narrow dagger was thrown out by the guards who had already surrounded them, before it landed not far from Ning Cheng. Although Ning Cheng felt angry in his heart, but he could do nothing about it. If his cultivation had recovered, then he would have definitely thrown out a fireball. This Princess Man was simply too self-righteous, and did not take human life seriously. In fact, he also knew in his heart that this might be the best outcome. But not waiting for Ning Cheng to pick up the dagger, Su Yingde had already grabbed the dagger. She raised her hand, and the dagger directly pierced through her shoulder. Blood instantly spurted out, dyeing half of her body red. Ning Cheng was almost stunned, he had never thought that Su Yingde would do such a thing. He quickly stepped forward and grabbed Su Yingde's hand, while simultaneously snatching the dagger and spoke, I told you last time, do not do such a thing in the future. Just as his voice fell, Ning Cheng's dagger had already pierced through his left and right shoulder twice. Coupled with Su Yingde's attack, it could be said that he had completed 3 blades and 6 holes. Humph, at least you still have a bit of friendship. Princess Man gave a cold snort, and once again gave a whistling sound, as the team of beast carriages quickly disappeared into the distance. Su Yingde, on seeing Ning Cheng's shoulder dyed red with blood, unexpectedly forgot that her own shoulder was also bleeding, as she panicked and stepped forward to help Ning Cheng bandage the wound. I'm fine, but you have to be careful with your wound. Ning Qing endured the pain, and just as he spoke those words, he felt his zifu loosen up. The next moment the mysterious yellow origin that had been imprisoned for a long time unexpectedly began to flow. Was it a blessing in disguise after being injured? Ning Qing was pleasantly surprised in his heart. He did not care about the fact that he was still outside the city gates, and immediately sat down, as he guided his mysterious yellow origin aura, wanting to attack the sealed core lake. Once his core lake was opened, and the true essence in his meridian started to flow, not to mention a princess, even if it was the entire army of the Yaluan city, he would be able to destroy them with just a lift of his hand. Suing Day simply did not care about her own injury, and together with Yin Kongchan stepped forward. They helped Ningqing bandage the wound, and with the help of Yin Kongchan, they were able to wrap up their own wounds. Although Ningqing attacked for a long time, the mysterious yellow origin aura did not directly break through the shackles of his core lake and Zifu as he had imagined. However, Ningqing gave out a sigh of relief in his heart. It was good that he had started. Now that he could feel the mysterious yellow origin aura, one day, he would be able to restore his cultivation. He had cultivated the embracing young god tactic for a month or two, but did not have even the slightest effect. He did not expect that with just 2 stabs, he would have such an immediate effect. It seems that the mysterious yellow origin aura could only erupt in a critical moment. Seeing Ningqing stand up, Maang quickly came over and spoke, "Elder brother Ning, this time I did not pay attention. I should have reminded you not to look up. Your luck is really good. If replaced by an ordinary person, they would have long since been beaten to death with their eyes gouged out. Princess Man is rarely so magnanimous. It should be said that you have a good wife." Saying that, Maang also gave a respectful look at Suing Day. In his view, Suing Day and Yin Kongchan were both Ning Cheng's women, but Suing Day cared more about her husband compared to Yin Kongchan. This is not elder brother Ma's fault. It was me who did not understand the rules. I want to heal my injuries. I ask elder brother Ma to help us get a civilian identity, and also a place to stay. Ning Qing quickly spoke up. Moving the mysterious yellow origin, for Ning Qing, was the most important thing. He had to find a quiet place, to restore his cultivation. Only by restoring his cultivation, would he have the right to speak in this place. Only then would he be able to leave this damned place. Maang patted his chest and spoke, "Elder brother Ning, rest assured, I will take care of your residence and identity. I will definitely help you in the shortest possible time. You can stay in the inn for the next few days." Getting a promise from Maang, Ningqing finally felt relieved. He first came to Suing Day and spoke, "Many thanks to you this time. Are your injuries serious?" Suing Day gave a gentle smile and spoke, "I'm fine. Your injuries are more serious than mine, so you have to pay more attention to your body." Saying that, Suing Day even stepped forward and carefully supported Ningqing with her uninjured arm. Ningqing did not avoid Suing Day for the first time. Suing Day's care and concern for him was not even half a bit fake. Ningqing could clearly feel it. When Yin Kongchan saw Suing Day step forward to support Ningqing, she lowered her head. No one knew what she was thinking. No matter how much Maang earned from the aquatic essence tendons, Maang at least kept his promise. On the 6th day of Ning Cheng's group of 3 staying in the inn, he helped the 3 of them settle down, while at the same time finding a small courtyard in a remote place in the Yaluan city. With his own residence, Ning Qing immediately went into seclusion, ready to use the mysterious yellow origin, first unlocking the shackles on his Zifu, and then unlocking the sealed true essence. He still had some clear water pills and fasting pills, so other than going out to take a bath, he spent most of his time in his room attacking his Zifu. Ning Qing even stopped cultivating the embracing young god tactic, mainly because cultivating the embracing young god tactic not only did not have any effect, but instead often made him feel that he needed women. Although Ning Qing did not doubt this cultivation method, but now that his mysterious yellow origin had loosened, he did not intend to waste time cultivating the embracing young god tactic. A month passed by in a flash. Yin Kongchan and Suing Day knew that Ning Qing was cultivating the cultivation method, as such they rarely came to disturb him. On this day, Ning Cheng's Zifu unexpectedly began to loosen. When Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness was able to stretch out to a meter, Ning Cheng almost cried out in joy. As long as his spiritual consciousness could stretch out to a few meters, he would be able to take out the things inside his ring. With his spiritual consciousness, to restore his true essence, it would simply be a matter of twice the results with half the effort. On this day, Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness had already stretched out to 3 meters, and when the situation was looking good, Yin Kongchan suddenly rushed in. "What's the matter?" Ning Cheng saw the anxious expression on Yin Kongchan's face, and immediately knew that something must have happened. Yin Kongchan anxiously spoke up. "Su Yingde was injured in the market, moreover she is also being detained. They said that they want to take Su Yingde to the legal tribunal office. If she goes to the legal tribunal office, then Su Yingde would definitely not be able to come out alive." Ning Cheng suddenly stood up. "What the hell is going on? Immediately take me to see it." Although Ning Cheng had been in seclusion to attack his Zifu and Core Lake, but he was very clear about what kind of place the Yaluan city was. The laws here were strict to the point of being terrifying. Even if it was Su Yingde and Yin Kongchan, these kind of beautiful ordinary women, very few people would covet them. The streets were even more orderly. Su Yingde was not a troublemaker, so how could she be taken to the legal tribunal office? Chapter 316. This makeshift market was not far from Ning Cheng's residence. As such, Ning Cheng listened to Yin Kongchan's simple introduction on the road. Although he had initially helped Maong obtain a lot of aquatic essence tendons, but Maong, in addition to helping him obtain a few permanent residences and a small courtyard, had only given him 50 silver coins. The shrewdness of a businessman was undoubtedly revealed. As such, no matter how much Ning Cheng asked for, he gave him that much. Ning Cheng immediately went into seclusion in his residence to attack the Zifu realm, and did not care about anything else. But living here, they had to spend money everywhere. Not only did they have to eat, drink, dress and so on, but they also had to pay a residence tax for their own houses. Relying on 50 silver coins was obviously not enough. Yin Kongchan and Su Yingde could only go to the makeshift market to look for work. Both of them were skilled people. As such, they rented a stall in the makeshift market to sell embroidery, and were unexpectedly able to barely maintain themselves. But the problem lay in this: there were already a few people doing embroidery in the makeshift market. Yin Kongchan and Su Yingde were very skilled. As such, their things immediately squeezed out the other shops in the makeshift market, causing their business to deteriorate day by day. No matter how strict the law was, as long as it touched their vital interests, there would always be someone who would find a way. Not to mention that Yin Kongchan and Su Yingde were so beautiful, there were also many people who coveted them. After a month of stability, someone finally came knocking on their door today. The embroidery that Yin Kongchan and Su Yingde sold was returned one after another, the reason being that the two of them had used inferior quality cloth, and had washed and dyed it white for embroidery. This kind of thing was not only easy to tear, but it would also turn into a mess as soon as it came into contact with the color of water. In the Yaluan city's makeshift market, there were very strict regulations. Once they used inferior goods, they would also face the most severe punishment from the legal tribunal office. Being driven out of the Yaluan city was the lightest punishment. If it was serious, they would end up in jail, or even face the fate of being enslaved. Ning Cheng followed Yin Kongchan to the makeshift market. This was the first time he had come to this place after entering the Yaluan city. At this time, he was not in the mood to look at what was being sold in the makeshift market, as he first saw Su Yingde. Su Yingde's hair was disheveled, and there were obvious bloodstains on her face and body. There were two men holding mahogany sticks, one on each side, holding Su Yingde in the middle. Ning Cheng did not even think about it, let alone speak any nonsense, as he directly pulled out his triangular-edged thorn and rushed forward. He had been cultivating the embracing young god tactic for a long time, coupled with the recent loosening of his sea of consciousness, allowing him to slowly release his spiritual consciousness, allowing him to move with incomparable speed. Puff puff. Two bloody lights flashed, as the two men who were clamping down on Su Yingde directly fell to the ground. Their knees had already been completely shattered by Ning Cheng's triangular-shaped thorns. Su Yingde broke free and rushed into Ning Cheng's arms. while sobbing in a low voice. She had always been a noble disciple of a large sect. When had she ever suffered such grievances? Su Yingdai's warm and soft body fell into Ning Cheng's arms. Ning Cheng unexpectedly felt a sense of tranquility. It was the first time that his heartstrings had been plucked by Su Yingdai. Ning Cheng could feel Su Yingdai trembling, as he gently patted Su Yingdai's back and spoke, "Don't be afraid, no one would dare to do anything to you." Su Yingdai's soft voice resounded in Ning Cheng's ears, "I am not afraid, I am very happy." At this time, the onlookers in the makeshift market were looking at Ning Cheng in shock, and no one dared to speak for a while. In the makeshift market, there had never been such a ruthless person. Was this person not afraid of being hanged? "You dare to seriously injure people in the makeshift market?" An obese man pointed at Ning Cheng in horror, while at the same time roared. Ning Cheng pulled Su Yingdai's hand, as he walked to the front of the obese man, and spoke in a cold voice, "Then you tell me, who are the two people that I injured? What crime did my companion commit? Why was she beaten up by these two people?" The obese man immediately sobered up from the most frightened moment, as he pointed at Ning Cheng and spoke, "The two of them interfered with the makeshift market, selling fake goods. As such their crimes are punishable by beheading and enslaving." Saying that, the obese man pointed to the two men on the ground, whose knees had been crushed by Ning Cheng, and spoke, "They had just bought fake goods, and had come to return them, yet you dared to seriously injure the two of them. You really have a big dog's courage, you will be hanged." The obese man's words had not yet finished, when Ning Cheng suddenly stepped forward and slapped him a few times, while at the same time brandished his triangular-edged thorn once again. The harsh sound of bones breaking resounded once again, as the obese man's knees were once again crushed by Ning Cheng, causing him to fall to the ground. Ning Cheng raised his triangular-edged thorn, as he squatted down and spoke to the obese man, "Not only will I seriously injure you, but I will also kill a few of you, do you believe it or not?" You. The obese man at this time was so frightened that he could not even speak a single word. He did not think that someone would dare to be so unscrupulous in the makeshift market. Ning Cheng held the triangular-edged thorn in his hand and walked towards the two men who were seriously injured by him. The two men were so frightened that they could not even speak a complete sentence. "Stop!" Along with this voice, a few people dressed as sergeants came over, along with a man wearing an official's hat, apparently the leader of this group of people. "Ning Cheng, what should we do?" "These are the people from the legal tribunal office." Yin Kongchan arrived at Ning Cheng's side, and asked in a low voice. Her tone was calm, without much anxiety. The man wearing the official's hat, on seeing the bloodstains on the ground, as well as the three people kneeling on the ground, immediately flew into a rage. "Who dares to be so bold, to actually start a fight in the makeshift market? Is this completely lawless?" The obese man, on seeing the guy wearing the official's hat coming over, immediately wailed like a pig being slaughtered, "Senior Sen, if you had not come, then we would have already been killed by this lawless person. This senior must uphold justice for the law-abiding commoners." Some of the people who were obviously on the side of the obese man, immediately started shouting and cheering from the crowd, demanding that the murderer be severely punished, and to bring peace to the makeshift market. The man wearing the official's hat revealed a trace of killing intent in his eyes, as he stared at Ning Cheng and gave a snort before speaking, "Your courage is not small. Come, bring them back to the legal tribunal office, and after the trial, put them into the slave market. These two women, also bring them back, and first lock them up in the prison." Several people dressed as sergeants were about to step forward, but Ning Cheng also shouted out loudly, "Stop for me." The few sergeants who wanted to capture Ning Cheng were unexpectedly frightened by Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng inserted the tri-edged thorn into his leg bindings, and took a few steps forward. The man surnamed Sun, wearing the official's hat, on seeing Ning Cheng step forward, quickly took a few steps back, and was just about to order his people to go up and tie up Ning Cheng, when Ning Cheng suddenly stared at him and spoke with a sneer, "Senior, my courage is not small, but your courage is even bigger. Now that you have captured me, I am afraid that the next moment you will also have to go to the slave market, right? You are talking nonsense. I am a dignified official of the legal tribunal office, punishing a criminal like you who destroys the market. this man's surname Sen had not finished, when Ning Qing interrupted him. Senior Sen, there are a lot of people here watching. What kind of law are you using to capture a person with meritorious services like me? What kind of means are you using to trample on the sacred laws of the Yaluan city? I am a person who knows the law and abides by it. As Ning Qing spoke, he raised his hand and cupped his fists towards the direction of the city master's mansion. You. This man's surname Sen was almost unable to speak due to anger from Ning Qing, but he quickly reacted, and spoke with a sneer. You destroyed the makeshift market, openly committed murder in the makeshift market, and yet you are still a person with meritorious services? If it were not for me, then I am afraid that you would have already taken a few lives in your hands, right? According to the Yaluan City's 5 Laws Article 971, if you commit murder in the makeshift market, then you will directly become a slave. If there is any resistance, then you can directly kill them. Hee, it looks like you want me to directly kill you. Ning Qing spoke with disdain. Senior Sen, these 3 people are pretending to be officials of the legal tribunal office, beating my companions, and bullying the market. If I kill them, then it would be considered as a meritorious service. According to the Yaluan City's 2 Laws Article 618, anyone who pretends to be an official of the Yaluan City can be killed by anyone, and would also be recorded as a meritorious service. Senior Sen, you want to help these criminals pretending to be officials of the Yaluan City. Are you trying to rebel? This Senior Sen wearing the official's hat turned pale on hearing Ning Cheng's words. He really did not know that such a thing would happen in front of him. If there was a conflict between the 2 laws and the 5 laws, then the 2 laws would absolutely prevail. At this time, the obese man immediately cried out like a pig being slaughtered. We did not pretend to be officials, he made up the facts. Senior Sen thought that this was the right thing to do. Who would dare to pretend to be an official in the Yaluan City? Unless they did not want to die cleanly enough. Once his fear disappeared, his tone immediately turned stern, falsely accusing others of pretending to be officials. It is a more serious crime than what you have just committed. Ning Qing interrupted Senior Sen's words without any trace of politeness, as he stared at the obese man and coldly asked, "Let me ask you, what crime did my companion commit, that you want to beat her?" She sold shoddy goods, interfered with the makeshift market, and even sold fake goods. It is entirely possible for her to become a slave. The obese man screamed. Ning Cheng's tone turned even colder. Did you investigate? Or is it just speculation? Or did you just listen to one side of the story? I did not investigate. These are all obvious things. The other people have already returned the goods. The obese man still argued. The man's surname Sen wearing the official hat already felt that something was wrong, but not waiting for him to speak, Ning Qing spoke up in a cold voice. Even if the legal tribunal office wants to punish a person, they must first investigate before they can convict him. You have not even investigated, yet you have already convicted him. Moreover, you even injured my companion. Let me ask you, what qualifications do you have to convict people? If this is not called pretending to be an official, then what is called pretending to be an official? Let me ask you again, what qualifications do you have to beat up my companion in the market? Is it because you know Senior Sen? As Ning Qing spoke till here, he deliberately looked at Senior Sen and gave a smile. My Yaluan City's laws are fair and just. Before anyone is convicted, they are all good people who abide by the law. Senior Sen, even if this person knows you, you cannot trample on the fair and just laws of my Yaluan City. Ning Cheng's tone turned impassioned as he spoke, causing some of the onlookers to applaud after listening to him. Senior Sen's face turned pale. The obese man had already forgotten the pain in his knees, as he spoke while sweating profusely. You also beat up people in the makeshift market, moreover you even seriously injured us. Ning Qing stepped forward, and patted the fat face of the obese man a few times. Idiot, I am doing a meritorious deed, do you understand? You are pretending to be people from the legal tribunal office. How can I tolerate such a thing happening? Saying that, Ning Qing once again looked back at the ugly expression on the face of the man wearing the official hat and spoke. Senior Sen, you are a senior from the legal tribunal office, but after coming here, you unexpectedly did not investigate anything, and instead wanted to catch a hero who had performed meritorious deeds. According to the Yaluan City's law, Article 431, I do not know what this senior should do. The man's surname Sen's forehead oozed cold sweat. He really could not figure out why Ning Cheng was so proficient in the laws of the Yaluan city. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.